Welcome, everybody, to Crunch Time with Jeff, Booner, Lukas, and Gentry. And today, we got a good one, because right before the show, we had breaking news. The Lions, he does not stop working. And he just signed a pretty good player. And we're going to get into that in a couple of minutes here. Also, it's Mock Draft Monday. In the second hour, we'll go through our mock drafts post-free agency. We get to talk about who the Lions will draft, who do we have in our mock drafts. Can't wait for that. We missed it last week because of free agency, but hey, we're back. It's Mock Draft Monday. Boys, how we feeling tonight?
Feel great. Brad Holmes did his thing. Monday, big week ahead. I mean, we're like a week closer to the NFL draft, which I think is like, people used to mess around about Detroit like that's our Super Bowl. It's still our Super Bowl, and we have the Super Bowl as well. So we've got double Super Bowls. You guys know what I'm saying here? Are you guys catching my drift? All right, just sure. Beautiful day.
I went along with the Booner path there. That's all I know.
The Booner path. The Booner path is more alive than ever, too, by the way.
No, I'm feeling great.
I'm picking up what you're putting down, Boone. I put out a tweet. I said, where all those Holmes haters at? You know, like all of a sudden, a lot of these people are cheering on Kevin Zeitler like it's, you know, what was the energy before? That's all I'm asking. I mean, again, you could be upset with who didn't sign here. But I'm talking about the people that are like, man, it's over. The window. I mean, he fumbled. He fumbled this offseason. Well, I can't wait. We're going to get into it. The Lions signed guard Kevin Zeitler, who was a Pro Bowler last year.
No, his first Pro Bowl in his career, too. Which is crazy.
Which is a whole nother thing. Like, he's been in the league for quite some time. He's, 34 years old? He's played, if you're talking about total seasons, he's played for a while in the league. He's a veteran. He's still playing at a high level. Even you go back last year, and I'll read some things for you real quick before you guys can kind of cook here. He was number 2 on PFF in terms of PFF pass blocking, top 15 overall offensive lineman. He allowed 19 pressures in 574 pass blocking snaps. A pressure rate of 3.3%, which is 7th among 78 total guards. And like I said, 13th season after being the 27th pick in 2012. And real quick, Detroit Supremacy, we appreciate you.
Shout out, man.
Best O-line in league history. I'm going to give a shout out to a couple people who kind of were here at the beginning, and then I'm going to let Boone and Lukas share their thoughts on the signing itself. Shout out Eric Gray was the first one in the chat, Mr. Detroit City. We got Shift God. Zach Martin, no, not the Zach Martin, but another very good Zach Martin. I'll tell you.
He knows we're talking about offensive linemen. What's happening here? He knows what's going on around the NFL.
We got ETN, Juices, Ghost, Anakin Skyogre. We appreciate you guys, man, for kind of coming in here on a Monday night with breaking news. But boys, what do we think about it? Right, 1-year deal. To me, this is kind of a stopgap between you getting your future guard. But man, what a hell of a stopgap! One of the best guards in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, there was and we had this conversation last week right before we came on. I told you guys, I was like, listen, this is something that at least I brought up last week as well, to where there's 2 scenarios you go. You either go the draft in the first or second round, you have to get someone who could start right away, or you have to get one of those top 2 guys, and they got one of the top 2 guys. And I'm just like, to be honest, fellas, I was just hoping they got a guy like this, because your heart and soul of the Detroit Lions offense was the offensive line. In the wave, at least for me, to keep this top 5 offense kind of consistent the next couple of years, or at least heading into this year, was you have to keep this thing the best in the NFL. And they went out and got a Pro Bowler. At that, fellas, like, I just went and looked at some stats, and I got in my bag a lot. I know we're not a PFF show here, but when it fits our narrative, we better dive into PFF a little. First of all, he has started in 181 games out of 182 games, fellas. Oh no.
You're good.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, you're good.
Jeez, dude, it went out. That caught me off guard. And then some PFF things here. I just want to go over the Detroit Lions offensive line real quick. If anyone kind of questioned, this line's going to take a step back, real quick, on the guard position, the Detroit Lions have now the number 8th rated PFF guard with Graham Glasgow, and the number 15th rated guard with Kevin Zeitler. Or Zeitler, however you pronounce his name. And they both played over 1,100 snaps, and their grades dominated Jonah Jackson's grades. And I know I don't want to take a shot at Jonah Jackson or anything, but to me, it's almost like being healthy. Like that was the number one thing with Jonah Jackson. You just got a guy that's going to consistently be healthy, and he has been it feels like for almost his whole career. And he was better at pass blocking last year, run blocking. Like he was better at everything when it comes to PFF. Like every single grade here you're looking at, like Jonah Jackson was the 34th ranked guard per PFF last season, 34th. And you just went and got the 15th rated guard per PFF with Kevin Zeitler. So like what you just made it, in my opinion, you could say it's almost an upgrade just based on these stats. And you just stayed consistent where you were at. You already had Graham last year. Now you got Kevin, and then you still have Panay, Taylor. Like the Lions offensive line, you have the number 1 center, the number 1 tackle, the number 9 tackle, the number 8 guard, and the number 15 guard in the NFL. That right there, fellas, is absolutely elite. And shout out to Brad Holmes for going out there and just doing what Brad, like for all the people last week that were going at Brad Holmes, just next time, shut your mouth until the thing's finished off. And there's still another month to go until then. I've had this conversation way too many times with people going all the way back to the trade deadline saying, take a step back. And you got like Jeff, me and you have had this conversation at the trade deadline. You came out and you were like, nope, yep, I need to, that was something I needed. People right now who are listening to me, take a step back, let Brad Holmes marinate in what Brad Holmes is doing. Just like a nice piece of chicken. Just sit there and marinate in it. And then wait until it's finished. All right. Klotz.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially towards the end, you hit it right on the head. The Lions did just upgrade their offensive line. And I know that might have been shocking to hear, especially after looking last week. But if you look at what Kevin Zeitler does compared to Jonah Jackson is more athletic, but on a consistency basis and a guy that's going to be able to give it to you in the run game and in the pass game, Kevin Zeitler is exactly that. We saw Jonah kind of decline last year, especially in pass blocking. So when you look at that, you add in the injury, you add in the price tag, Kevin Zeitler just upgraded this Lions offensive line, and it's somebody that you don't have to worry about, is he going to be able to fit into a new system? Because he was drafted to Cincinnati, got traded to the Giants, then got traded to the Browns, and then I don't know if he got traded or he signed with the Ravens, but this man has been on multiple teams around the NFL in multiple systems and been extremely consistent and a top-tier guard basically after his 3rd season in the NFL. And I don't think he's a player that's going to have a huge drop-off just because he's 34 or 35 years old in Detroit. I think this is a guy that's going to be able to produce in a major way to upgrade this offensive line.
Yeah, I think this is a home run signing, guys, for a couple of reasons. One, you lose Jonah Jackson for the number we talked about, which was a number we were all not willing to pay, which was 17 per year, which is just an absurd amount. And when we bring up Jonah, it's not even to diss Jonah because he was very good. He was good. He was a Pro Bowler with Detroit. This past season, though, he was not. Specifically in pass blocking, he was not good. He was actually better against run blocking. Kevin Zeitler is an elite pass blocking guard. So he does better even at 34 than what Jonah did last year. Doesn't mean Jonah can't improve. And obviously the money has to still come out. But you look at some of the moves the Lions have made, and this all happened recently. They gave Jared Goff a $5 million roster bonus. They paid Decker a $500,000 roster bonus. $5 million and a quarter of running back David Montgomery's 2024 salary was guaranteed. And all $10.5 million of Cam Sutton's 2024 salary was guaranteed. So this was all happening behind the scenes. Little did we know it was going to help them make some moves here, re-signing Donovan Peoples-Jones, which we'll get to later in the show, and signing guard Kevin Zeitler. So, guys, I think this, and I agree with you, Booner, to your point about one of the most important things this offseason was keeping this offensive line elite. And they do that by getting a guy who's 34 years old. He can fill that right guard position. Doesn't mean they're not going to draft one, but it also means you don't have to throw a rookie into your as a starter year one when you have high expectations. You get to have the rookie sit back, learn, and boom, he gets to go off in the next year or two after Zeitler's deal ends. So I love it. It's a great deal. I'm going to pull up this clip right here.
And I don't think too, Jeff, like that doesn't, and a lot of people are probably going to say this, like it doesn't even change the fact that the Lions can go out and draft a guard or draft an offensive lineman. Like I think that makes it even that much like better to where within the, like maybe not the first round now, but that second, third round, like some of these guys we've been breaking down, the Cooper Beebes, like those are the guys, McCormick from South Dakota, like those are guys now that like you really can draft and bring in. And now they're just like, all right, maybe they do get a year. And if there is some sort of injury, which we've seen throughout the season, like there's going to be guys who have to rotate, and you need kind of some depth in the offensive line, especially on this one. It's like that's exactly what this is for as well, to where you can go draft more depth at that. Because like some of these guys, like I know Graham signed a 3-year, Kevin it's only a 1-year deal as well. So like there's going to be like, you're going to have a guy that steps in. Like our mock drafts, at least in mine, in the first 3 rounds, I'm still going to have an offensive lineman. So I don't think that changes anything at all. But I just think like this is better than having a rookie who you're not like 100% sure what he is right away to be able to step in, because like having the top 5 offensive line, or if not the best in the NFL, and the best running back duel in the NFL, that's like your bread and butter, and protecting Jared Goff, who needs protection to be great. So like that was the number 1 priority. I'm very happy that Brad went out there and took care of that. That was like, to me, one of the biggest. I think I've been saying it for about a week or so now after this edge and that the DJ Reader signing was, I just want an offensive lineman that can start instantly.
Yeah, it's chess, not checkers, fellas. I mean, the Eagles, they revamped their pass rush. The 49ers added talent to their defensive line, and this is kind of their chess move. And this is a tweet I want to read out before we get to this video here that Lukas put out on Crunch Time, and I want to kind of show it for the people because it kind of shows what Zeitler's about and how he's going to help the Lions. Shout out to Caleb Zarnick. He does a good job on Twitter. He's funny as hell, man. I just started following him.
Shout out, man.
And he put out something, and it was just PFF stats on the Lions offensive line. And this was last year, and it's crazy to think about. Sacks allowed, according to PFF last year: Frank Ragnow, 1 sack. Penei Sewell, 1 sack. Taylor Decker, 8 sacks. Glasgow, 2 sacks. And Kevin Zeitler, 2 sacks. So between all
fits right in.
All 5 expected starters, you're talking about a combined 14 sacks last year, 8 of them coming from Decker, which, he didn't have some greatest moments, but still, I mean, 14 sacks among 5 guys. That's an impressive stat there. Now let's play this video. This was posted, and this kind of lets you know. Lukas, feel free to break this down while I'm playing it, but this is Kevin Zeitler, man. The guy's a monster.
Yeah, I mean, look at just how many. Think about this guy is 33, 34 years old in this, and he takes out 3 guys inside the red zone. You think about. Forget about the red zone, but you look at this play and think about how much Dan Campbell goes for it on 4th and 1, 4th and 2, 4th and 3. Kevin Zeitler is a guy that you can put right next to right next to Penei Sewell, right next to Frank Ragnow, and that's almost like a gimme. Like that's a tush push on 4th and 2 with David Montgomery behind it. That's every time. You just can't stop it, because the thing that Zeitler is so good at, next to his durability, is he's so good. Look at the leverage he gets on all of these guys. He's under all of their pads. He knows how to get under linebackers and defensive tackle, defensive end, because he's been around the league for so long. So this is a guy that's going to be able to teach a Kobe Sorsdahl as well and help develop that guard that hopefully it's a Cooper Beebe. But Kevin Zeitler, he's going to do not only things for the Lions this year just with his play, but I think he's going to help develop that offensive line room as well.
Yeah, I want to at the face. There you go. So real quick, and I know this was I want to give a shout out to Yawning Lion. He just became a YouTube member, so we appreciate you. Thank you for that. Much appreciated. But when just to kind of stay on this for a little bit, I know people were talking about just the cap they've cleared up. And those moves they made today didn't necessarily all mean because of Kevin Zeitler and DPJ, but it also means that Brad Holmes is going to continue to cook here. So again, there's more signings that could potentially happen. Now we'll see with Josh Reynolds and whether or not they re-sign him. We'll get to that in a little bit here. But guys, I still think they need another veteran safety. That would be my preference. Yeah. I know he tweeted out today that Quandre Diggs he's on a lot of Lions fans' minds, and he seems to just fit perfectly. What position do you think Brad dresses next in free agency? You just got your starting right guard. Where else does he go? Or left guard, depending on which way he starts. What's the next move for Brad Holmes?
I think there's 3 positions right now, or I guess you could say 4, to be honest. And you guys can kind of tell me if I'm wrong here, but I think number 1, I think there's 4. There's edge rusher. Like, I think, again, you still need to address the edge. Like, what you have right now, to me, on the other side of Hutch, it just isn't like, I don't know, it's not sustainable. It's like, it feels like, you guys remember last year when Brad came in and he was like, I like the guys we have. Like, I trust these guys. Like, I think they have a lot of potential. And then nothing happened out of it. Like, I feel like that's the direction we're headed in outside of Marcus Davenport. Like, I feel like that's the direction right now we're heading in, where he's like, I want to roll with the same guys, your core brothers. And so that's where it's his edge to me is number 1. And then also I put safety depth here. I just tweeted this out about an hour ago, safety depth. And then I did put wide receiver depth. That's if they don't re-sign Josh Reynolds. And then as well, kind of get some like deep corner depth, like some guys kind of behind these top guys that you just signed. Just like, obviously, what's his name? Tavier or whatever his name is, he obviously just signed with the Bucks, so that's out of the picture. But I think those are kind of the main ones, at least to me. And then obviously still getting that offensive line and the depth in there. I think two guys real quick with the are we getting into the Josh Reynolds stuff in a little bit, because I do have something on that. To touch
we can get into it now if you want.
I just think like them re-signing DPJ, like I don't think, and I saw like all of my comments and everyone on Twitter was tweeting out like, oh, means Josh Reynolds is gone, means Josh, like that is the last thing in my opinion that's what that means, because you just signed DPJ for up to $2 million. He never last year was one of those guys like Josh Reynolds. Him and Josh Reynolds to me are two different weapons and pieces of this offense. Like if you were going to get rid of Josh Reynolds, you still have to go out and get someone. DPJ does not fill that void. So that's where, like, I don't know if you guys saw it on Twitter. I got a little like, all right, we need to stop this now. Like, we need to cut out this DPJ is the replacement for Josh Reynolds. He's coming in because, and I'm pretty sure Brad and them said it, he has a very high ceiling. He has a ceiling that he could turn into something because he's so young still. I still think this Josh Reynolds situation, if you don't sign him, you have to draft a wide receiver in the first two rounds. I almost want to die on that hill, because you do need depth at especially you get this offensive line, you've got the running backs, you need Jared Goff to have more weapons. And if you don't bring back Josh Reynolds, bring someone else in. Those are my top priorities, I think, at least.
Lucas, where are you at with the Josh Reynolds stuff? Because to kind of go, I'm a little against Booner, because even though I agree it doesn't say, well, Josh Reynolds is out of here, I do think it is a chess move in case he does leave. You have DPJ, you still sign a guy who's been in the league, and then you can still draft a rookie. I would prefer at this point if Brad just drafts a rookie wide receiver. That's where I'm
in on that.
Yeah, I don't want the money. I don't want the money towards Reynolds. That's just me.
I think that it's hard to say that Donovan Peoples-Jones re-signing in Detroit didn't push the percentage for Josh leaving up at least a little bit. I mean, it's saying like, Josh, we'd love to have you back, but I think if you're Josh Reynolds, you even know, like, okay, they probably are going to go wide receiver at some point in the draft. They just brought back Donovan Peoples-Jones. I can go re-sign pretty much anywhere I want in the NFL because I'm not going to command a lot of money, and every NFL team is going to want me because they know I'm a reliable veteran. So I think Josh Reynolds, he's out the door at this point, and I could be wrong. But if you're asking me, what do I think happens? I do think Josh Reynolds goes out the door. And then to Booner's point that he brought up earlier, I do think Brad would take a wide receiver in the first or second round, just because how deep it is at the top of the draft, because there is some guys like the Brendan Rices, the McCaffreys that you can get in the 4th, 5th, 6th round. But when you look at this second round of the draft, where it really is, there's tons of guys that Brad probably has on his boards that he's like, yeah, these are second round guys, almost like the Sam Laportas last year, but they're in the top 30 players of this draft. So if I can get a wide receiver right here in the second round, I'm going to do it. And same thing with that pick 29 if they don't move back.
Booner, let me say something. I want to see whether you agree with it or not. If I'm Brad, okay, think of it from Josh Reynolds' perspective first. If I'm Josh Reynolds, I was just a wide receiver 2 on a team that made an NFC Championship game. Yes, he had a terrible game to end the season against the 49ers, but it doesn't take away the body of work he had all season. He was very dependable. He was reliable. He's a guy that can play multiple positions, meaning he can play the X, he can play whatever coaches ask of him. And I do think there's value to that. And I do think there'll be a market for Josh Reynolds. So if I'm Josh Reynolds, of course I want to test the market. Of course I do. And I believe, Boone, there'll be a team that'll offer him more than the Lions. I'm not saying he's going to get top money or anything like that. I just think he will go and chase, which he should, by the way. I don't think he's ever gotten paid he's always kind of been a guy that's just been a part of a wide receiver core, not like a solidified wide receiver too. I think he departs. Not that he wants to, but I think for the money, and rightfully so, and the Lions go in a different direction. That's how I'm looking at it. That's why it's been taking so long, is because he's still feeling out this free agency process. And I think the Lions should get to a point where they're like, hey, man, we got to move forward without him.
I see. So I do agree with that. And I think we actually are all on the same page with the Josh Reynolds things. The only thing I just don't agree with is I just don't see, I don't see this DPJ signing moving the needle at all in a decision towards Josh Reynolds.
Not at all.
Not at all. They were on the team last year. DPJ was getting a couple snaps here and there with Josh Reynolds last year. It wasn't like DPJ was out there competing for snaps with Josh Reynolds was that guy. Like, he was the second option. And it's like, you need to replace that. You know what you guys see what I'm seeing here? Like, they were still on the same roster and the depth was the same. Now, to me, the only thing I think it moves the needle is with the only reason I would say it does move the needle for Josh Reynolds is because with DPJ coming back, that does show that they might go rookie, like get a rookie wide receiver and replace that. I don't think it has anything to do with the Josh Reynolds and the money. I think it's just more so like, hey, if Josh does take the money somewhere else, now we do have to get a rookie wide receiver. It's like, I just feel like a lot of people felt like we're tweeting out and putting out there, oh, DPJ can take the Josh Reynolds position. That's not, in my opinion, this year, that's not going to happen. He's not going to take the production and do what Josh Reynolds did. It's going to end up being a rookie coming in, whether it's the first or second round, and they're gonna make that, like, the rookie and DPJ will have that production together. And that's where I'm going to go with it. Like, I don't think it has anything to do with that. And I'm with you, Jeff. He's going to have a big time market. Like, he's going to have a market because there's not a lot of wide receivers on this market right now. And he's kind of probably pretty valued around, especially teams that want to win. And I'm very interested to see how much he's getting offered. If he takes a deal to where it's a little cheaper and you could say, okay, we can do that. We have the money to do that and address other needs. Let's roll. Let's go another year here. But if not, draft someone and let them kind of take that production.
So, well, here's what I think about DPJ. I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is better than people think he is, because yes. Donovan Peoples-Jones, his best year is better than any year Reynolds has ever had. He had 800 plus yards the year before Amari Cooper showed up with the Browns, and Josh Reynolds' career high, I believe, was with the Lions. Could be wrong. Yeah. No, he had 618 with the Rams. He had 608 this year with the Lions. And I like Reynolds.
Who was DPJ's in that year? Who was his other wide receivers he had? Did he have like a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta and Jameer Gibbs?
Well, that would actually make it even harder.
And I mean, when Josh Reynolds was in LA, he had Brandon Cooks, Cooper Kupp, Todd Gurley. Like, they were pretty much in the same role.
And I'm not saying this to like discredit. No, we're not saying this to like discredit. I'm just being real. Like, if they don't sign Josh Reynolds, DPJ at that number, I'll take 7 out of 7 days over Reynolds.
There's no. I would be very disappointed if he's the number 2 wide receiver going into next year, and that's nothing against DPJ because he can be a number 2. But with this offense, I feel like there should be another weapon on this team.
But the thing is that we're not thinking about is Josh Reynolds for those first 6 weeks when he was very productive was a wide receiver 2, but then you could see as the season went on, J-Mo is going to be the wide receiver 2. Josh Reynolds being back with the Lions is a want, but by no means do the Detroit Lions need him. So I think the Lions, they'd want to upgrade, and bringing Josh Reynolds back at this point, I don't think it handicaps Lions by any means, but I think it holds them back from upgrading as far as their offense, because where else are you going to upgrade right now? Even the tight end, you're not upgrading from Sam Laporta. The offensive line, I guess if you want to draft a tackle to develop behind Taylor Decker, but they're not starting this year. Running back, no. The only area this team can upgrade offensively is at wide receiver. Josh Reynolds, you bring him back on the roster spot. To Booner's point, like, you're probably not taking a wide receiver in the first round. You're probably going to look in the 4th, 5th, 6th. You draft a wide receiver like a Ladd McConkey, you can Xavier Legette, you can name them. There's probably like 5 or 6 guys you could argue as a wide receiver 3 in this system could produce a higher ceiling for this offense than Josh Reynolds. And even Donovan Peoples-Jones fits into that argument. The ceiling.
Let me ask you guys this question. Let me ask you this question then, because this is where I'm at with it. Okay. Are you guys comfortable going in next year if Josh Reynolds doesn't re-sign? Are you comfortable going in next year with a Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Khalif Raymond, and DPJ wide receiver room?
Well, there'd be a rookie too, yeah.
But my point is, say they don't draft one of the first 4 rounds. Would you guys be comfortable with that?
I don't think that's the case, though. I think that's
that's my point. That's my point, though, is what I'm trying to tell you guys. Is my point is, if Josh Reynolds does not get re-signed, you have to draft a wide receiver in the first 3 rounds and go and get that weapon.
That's what we're saying.
And because you do still need that. Like, DPJ hasn't done it for you yet. J-Mo, as much as we want to say he could be a number 2, he hasn't done it for you yet. Like, you need to have options out there, in my opinion. That's where I'm at with it.
Now, let me ask you this.
It's one of the two. It's either you resign or you draft a rookie.
This will clear up the confusion. Are you comfortable if Reynolds doesn't resign if they draft a wide receiver? Are you cool?
Very, very.
Okay.
You guys will see that by my mock draft today too, and my mock draft a couple weeks ago when I had Ladd McConkey. Like, I'm very comfortable with that. It's just you have to do one or the other. The reason I brought this up was because a lot of people on Twitter and Coach Walk, I do listen. You guys all need to listen, because I brought up the original point that people were mad. People were coming at the Lions saying, "Oh, this means Josh Reynolds isn't re-signing." That's not what the DPJ signing means. That is not it at all. What it means is either they're going to go rookie or he's going to come in. It's one or the other. It doesn't affect, like, DPJ was coming back one way or another. Like, that was going to be that was where I was going with this whole point. So I do listen. It's just you have to make a move now. DPJ isn't that guy.
And I'm
As of
curious. Now. I'm curious what Reynolds' market is, to be honest. Like if he's been waiting this long and maybe he's mulling offers. Maybe he has an offer on the table already. I think to be honest, this isn't like any insider. I'm just saying this. I'm just spitballing here. I think there is an offer from the Lions and he's mulling it. He's looking at it. He's just seeing what's out there, I think.
For sure.
I think the Lions are like, hey, you come back on this number. And he's like, well, we'll see. And I think if a team offers him more, Lukas, he's going to jump at that opportunity, which he should. Like, get your money, man. But I think the Lions will be fine without him.
At this point, I think it's one of those things where the day goes on, like as the days pile up, the percentage of Josh leaving piles up as well, because Brad's just going to your point, like you said earlier, Jeff, like Brad's just going to be like, all right, love what you did here, but you got to make a decision because we're trying to go win a Super Bowl. We're trying to start playing stalls, and we got to know if you're here or not. Jared's got to know, because the only thing that Josh Reynolds, in my opinion, and again, not a knock, but we know that Josh Reynolds is not the most talented wide receiver. The thing that Josh Reynolds brings is reliability, and you can find that in other players. There's things that other players have that Josh Reynolds at this point in his career, especially pushing above 30, there's not many things that Josh Reynolds can improve on of what he already has. So just go get another wide receiver, in my opinion.
I want to get to some super chats here, and then we'll get to the next topic, which we are going to talk about. Mike Greenberg, Greeny, ESPN, talked about the Lions window is closed. You can check out the video I posted today on it. We're going to revisit it because the fellas have not spoken on it. So I'm curious to get your guys' opinion. And we have the live chat now, so it makes it a lot fun here. We'll start with the first one, Elgato. Thank you for the $2. Says, what up, mofos? Draft a tall wide receiver.
Shout out Elgato.
With you there. Dante151, thank you for the $2. Says, Khalif Raymond is still here. People forget. You ain't lying. Elgato, thank you for the $2. F Reynolds, draft tall receiver. Well, we got the message, Elgato. We appreciate the donations there. Fellas, Mike Greenberg went on ESPN last week on his show, and he sounded off on the Detroit Lions. He was like, they've been passed. I think I have some quotes here. He says, I think they're getting surpassed in their own division. I think they missed their window. And then he brought up how the Packers are the best team in that division. And he said the Lions missed their chance at being up 17 to the 49ers. He said, you missed that chance, man. You missed that chance. Like, that's it. That was it. That's all she wrote. And he also brought up examples of teams that have made a Super Bowl or NFC Championship game run and didn't return. He brought up the Bengals. He brought up the Bills. He brought up a couple other examples. Fellas, I mean, I already gave my thoughts out there. I think this is just – it's ridiculous.
It's asinine. If you actually break it down, so the Packers, what mind-boggling moves did they make this offseason? You could say Josh Jacobs. When you look at how Aaron Jones performed in that NFC Championship games, tell me really how much an upgrade is Josh Jacobs is compared to Aaron Jones, especially considering he just went to your division rival in the Packers. Xavier McKinney, great safety, but you lost Rudy. That's your only safety, and you need a corner still. Just break down the position group. Safety, Lions are better. Corner right now, the Lions are better, shockingly to even say that. Linebackers, Lions. Defensive line, it's close, but if you really think about it, with the addition of DJ Reader now, Aiden Hutchinson, then Aleem McNeil, then you really have Kenny Clark and Rashawn Gary in Green Bay. I'm going to go the whole defense pretty much goes to the Pack or the Lions. The only thing the Packers have an offense that I would take over the Lions right now, people can hate me for it, is Jordan Love. Jordan Love is the only thing that the Packers have on the Lions, but Jared Goff could be right above or right behind, depending on how you rank him. I just think Jordan Love can do a little bit more things, and he's going to take another step. But a quarterback is not going to shape the whole division. I'm sorry, especially when you have a damn good one in Jared Goff too.
Boone, came right after the Booner path.
He's right directly. I watched Oppenheimer yesterday with the atomic. That man was dropping atomic bombs on the Booner. He was coming at us.
Yeah.
I think it's this is kind of how I took it. Creating the Booner path and going on this NFC Championship run, going for a Super Bowl the next couple of years, fellas. I looked at it as, you know who it really kind of goes at, in my opinion? It's direct disrespect towards Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell and this, like, what they have built the last 2 or 3 years. Like, that's how I took it. It's to where you're going to sit here, and after seeing not alone just like yeah, you can sit here and go, oh, free agency, the Lions didn't make as many moves, or not even as many, as big name moves as other teams in the NFC North or the NFC have. After you saw what Brad Holmes did in the NFL draft last year with Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta, and Brian Branch, you're going to sit here and go out on national TV and say the Detroit Lions window was closed a month before the NFL draft, which is Brad Holmes's Super Bowl. That is his time to go shine after exactly what he did last year and upgraded this whole roster. Like, what are we doing here, Green? Like, come on. Like, it's so much disrespect, like, to sit here and say that this team already, like, the roster, we have the best roster in the NFC North altogether, one of the best in the NFC, and you have the best coaching staff in the NFC North, the best GM in the NFC North, potentially in the NFC. You had, like, the front office, everything about this Lions organization right now is the best in the NFC North and one of the best in the NFC. And I can name you guys off here just as a gambler. I'm sure you guys can guess what the odds are. The NFC North, guess what? Detroit Lions plus 130, favorite. Packers plus 210, Bears plus 340, and the Vikings plus 750. They are a clear favorite to win the NFC North. And if you want to go to the NFC, 49ers plus 240, Lions plus 600 at second, and the Cowboys and Eagles following that at plus 650. What are we doing here? This is one of the best teams in the NFC. Like, what, like, shut up and sit down. Like, what are we doing? And I told Lucas that one time, he almost hit me. But no, Greeny, shut up and sit down and stop talking. Keep the Detroit Lions out of your mouth. I don't want to hear the Detroit Lions come out of that man's mouth until we start playing football again, and you can kind of actually put pen to a paper and show us what's actually going on. Because it's disrespectful. Like, why don't you talk about the Cowboys window closing? They've been trying for 6 years. What about the Eagles?
30. They've been trying for 30.
Yeah. They've been trying for 30.
And they still haven't.
The Lions, dude, the Lions have won more playoff games probably than the Cowboys in the last 5 years. That's not a fact check. You can fact check me, but I'm sure they have. And what about the Eagles? Is the Eagles window closed because they just blew it and lost in the first round? Like, what are we doing here, Greeny? Talk about some other team. Keep the Detroit Lions name out of your mouth. What a loser.
Jets. Even the
Jets.
He's a Jets fan. Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, yeah, of course.
For vice president, pal. Sit down.
Of course.
Yeah.
What a loser.
And the other, like, disgusting part, in which you didn't elaborate too much on, Jeff, but when he compares it to the other teams that made it to the NFC Championship and didn't make it back, all of those teams, that was like their shot. That was like, we have veterans that are on high money. They're not going to be able to re-sign. Our quarterback's on his last year. Like, it's one of those seasons, like the Atlanta Falcons with Matt Ryan. The Lions are all on rookie contracts. It makes this is a team that's organically going to get better. It wasn't built to make a Super Bowl run right now. This is just a organic rebuild. That's all it is. And it works out, and people don't like it.
Jeff, what did we talk about Friday? What did we talk about the Bears Friday? I clipped it and I put it on our socials today. What did we talk about with the Bears? Right now, the Bears are going out there and using draft capital and money to go buy a football team to put around Caleb Williams with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore and this defense that they're spending some money on and going to get vets. Guess what the Detroit Lions aren't doing? They're not doing that. And it's not a one-year wonder because they're going out there, and Brad Holmes he literally just got an award for having the best NFL draft last year by a GM. And he's going to do it again. And he's 3 for 3 already in drafts, and he keeps doing it. Like, this is like the Kansas City Chiefs, the Eagles, the 49ers, the Ravens, the Steelers. This is what these teams do. I'm over this Greeny thing, dude.
It's so wrong. It's hilarious. Like, I broke it down. I mean, I spent 13 minutes straight going through just
that was a good video too.
It was great.
It was great. You know, it's funny, Lucas, you brought up just now the examples he brought up. The Bengals and the Bills. Oh my God. I mean, do we really have
their windows closed?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the point.
Talking about the Bills possibly being like a magical run as a wild card team this year, and people are talking about Joe Burrow returning and the Bengals being a possible Super Bowl contender this year.
Right.
It makes no sense.
I mean, the Bills. I'm a Bills guy. Their window's closed. Their window was closed 4 years ago. How about that, Greeny?
And he said, remember you said that, Booner.
Hey, what?
I'm just going. No, I'm not. I don't mean it. I'm going off of his lot. I don't like how we have this skinny thing. His logic.
Yeah, I mean his logic. I mean, if you're going off that, it's the Bengals and Bills. Their window would have been closed. The Bengals made a title game the following year, lost to Patrick Mahomes, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever live, and then Joe Burrow got injured. So if you count that as it closed, whatever. The Bills ran into Kansas City. The Bengals, Kansas City. So it's like, come on, man. None of those teams. The only team in the NFC that you're really looking at. The Eagles did make moves, so maybe they're, but still, those coordinators got to prove it to me. Well, and then we'll see. The 49ers
proved it enough.
Okay. Kellen Moore. Okay. Kellen Moore.
Kellen Moore,
he's nice too. But hey. All right, let's stay on track. The 49ers, I'll say, are a team that they've done it. And the Eagles have new coaching staff. I'm with you, but still, like, to even say, well, they're better than the Lions, it's like based off.
No, I'm not saying that.
You know what I mean? So the 49ers are the only team. I think the Lions were up 17. So regardless, it doesn't even make sense. That's why the whole Greeny thing, it was all for clicks and it worked. We're talking about it. So the Lions window is just opening. You have a team full of rookie contracts. It's ridiculous.
Should we talk about his Jets?
Oh, the Jets.
Should we talk about his Jets?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that window's about. It's
like Achilles tear. It was an Achilles tear and it was closed.
You know, it's like you open a window just to let the breeze in. That's where the Jets window. It's like a little bit of breeze.
That man's got like an RV screen window right now. That's what he has over there in New York.
Yeah, it's just like a little bit of wind coming in that window for the Jets. That's all it is. I mean, it's like I say, guys, all the time. I mean, head coach, GM, quarterback. And I think the Lions have all three. And if Jared can still play at the level he's been playing at, and Dan Campbell is as good as we all think he is, then they'll be okay. They'll be fine. So nothing to worry about there. We're going to kind of change the conversation here because that's been just hammered all day. That the Greeny comments thing. It's kind of getting old. But what's not getting old is Joe Klatt's mock draft. He came out with one. That's my Lewis Riddick to Lucas right there. Yeah. Joe Klatt. I watch every video. And he came out with his mock draft 2.0 today. And he had the Lions taking somebody. And it's a position we talked about last week as like a what-if scenario. And I want to talk about that what-if scenario, any positions now, because we're our post-free agency almost kind of get to that point. And, of course, Kevin Zeitler just got signed. So it kind of clarifies the draft a little bit. But here's who Joe Klatt had taking for the Detroit Lions. Kool-Aid McKinstry at 29. Yeah, Chop Robinson went 27. And then I'm
interested to see who was available.
Cooper DeJean went 28. Ennis Rakestraw went at 26. Nate Wiggins went to the Packers at 25.
I hope Nate Wiggins goes to the Packers. I do hope that.
Yeah, well,
expose that man.
Yeah, St. Brown. He's gonna be licking his chops. That's barbecue chicken. But what I will.
Sam Laporta in the open field. That's the thing you got to think about. I know we're not talking about Nate Wiggins. Nate Wiggins out there playing cover two. He's in his cover two flat, and Sam Laporta catches the ball. Now what? Now
that's you, Lucas. That's you. That's you.
Yeah, it's not turning out well. Anyway, back to
I would love to see Lucas and Sam Laporta go one-on-one.
I'm diving for the turf.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
Turf.
Hey, you got to go at the knees, man. I mean, hey, you just got.
Whoa! Don't say that about our starting tight end. Nah, come on, brother.
That's what Minnesota did.
Yeah,
come on. I mean, brother. Lucas doesn't have can't take him down, but hey, it is what it is. Well, Kool-Aid McKinstry went to the Detroit Lions in his latest mock draft. Had an injury, couldn't participate in the combine. We were down there. We didn't get to check him out. We watched the DBs. We talked about this last week, fellas, where there might be a scenario where Brad Holmes takes a corner in the first round. And I think for me, I was on the side as I'm cool with it. I like it because there is some DBs you like, Max Melton. But after about Max Melton, like, I'm not a fan of the DBs left. Lucas, there's a couple guys you like, but it's more like, I think that the best DBs are going to go in the first 2 rounds to me. So if you are going to take a different position in the second round and Brad takes a DB in the first round, I'm okay with it because you're going to have Carlton Davis, Cam Sutton, Amik Robertson, and then your rookie who could rise and of course, be higher in the depth chart. I'm cool with it. Maybe, do I like Kool-Aid McKinstry? Yeah. Is there another corner? You guys know I like Kamari Lassiter. To me, it doesn't really matter. Just the fact that he takes a corner besides Ennis Rakestraw. I know we're not pro. We're against Ennis Rakestraw here on this show. What do you guys think of the possibility of drafting a corner? Where are you at with it?
Lucas, I'll let you hit this one.
I mean, I just don't think it's good value. I think at the corners that are there, again, I'm not ever going to question Brad Holmes, but if there was thing to make me question the most is taking a corner at 29, just because you look, the cornerback room just got a whole lot more solidified. Now, I'm not saying don't draft a corner because you got Carlton Davis and Amik Robertson. Like, I'm not saying that. But in the first round, when you need an edge. If you don't re-sign Josh, you need a wide receiver, and this is at 29. just take your pick. There's a future Pro Bowler waiting to happen. And even if you look at this, I wouldn't say safety, but if you go like the tackle or the guard, because you mentioned earlier, Taylor Decker, 8 sacks. He's getting up there. This is last year on a contract. I think I would prefer corner in rounds 2 or 3. You get a Max Mountain, you get a Chris Abrams-Drain, etc. There's guys that you can have Carlton Davis help develop. So that way, if you don't re-sign Carlton Davis next year, you have that. And you can still go get another corner next year in the draft in the first or second round. I think it's a position that's available. But taking it at 1, I mean, Brad's talked about it already. Just because a corner is available that everybody likes at that position doesn't mean that Brad likes him. And Kool-Aid, and I'm not saying this to you guys, but what does Kool-Aid do at an elite level? And I mean, if you guys have an answer, like I'm all for it.
I would say press man coverage.
So I agree. But then you look at, okay, you take him at 29. Who's he pressing against? Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and then the Packers, obviously young wide receivers, but very good wide receivers. So he not the fastest wide receiver, and I don't care about combine times, but if you're going to take a press man corner, that's a risky pick, especially in this division. I say use your pick 29 at a more, I don't know what to say, but a position that has more instant high value just because it's
more
corner's the toughest position to play in football. You know what I mean? I just don't think it's good value.
Lucas, I think we're lockstep on this because to me, it's like that 29th pick. I think there's a chance as well you see Brad even move up, get a player that he really loves. I think that needs to be, and I'm starting to fall more towards this. I think that first round pick has to be a player that instantly is going to make an impact or be able to come kind of step on the field and provide something for you this year on the Super Bowl run. Kool-Aid, can he do that? Maybe. But with what you have at corner right now, is he going to do that? Probably not instantly because you've brought in. I think like what Brad's done in free agency, and Jeff, to your point, like you said, like we already have an idea of what free agency has done. Like we know what Brad is attacking. Specifically, he went and got 2 corners, and he went out there and got a guard, and he got a nose guard, like a nose tackle already. So like he basically showed us, hey, this is what I'm addressing in free agency. Now, like edge and a receiver, like to me, that's where I start leaning towards more like that's the addressing, like in the round 1, round 2. It's like you need guys that like you need a DN that needs to play right away. Like that's where I'm starting to think Brad is going to move up and maybe go after one of these elite edge rushers is because of that. If he takes Kool-Aid, am I going to be mad? No, because Brad's been that guy that says, hey, I'm going to take best player available at the top of my draft board. And if that's Kool-Aid McKinstry, I'm fine with that. And I know we got someone, and he's going to try and get the best players on the field at the same time. So I'm off kind of the corner in the first round. I think there's guys in the 3rd, 4th round that you can get. The Max Melton, like I think our show has fell in love with the idea of bringing him to Detroit because that is depth and he can learn behind some guys that have played in this league. But I just think, like to Lucas's point, in that first round at 29, you could probably get better value for a guy that's going to be able to make an impact based on what you have on your roster come day 1 when it comes to training camp this year. And that's where I'm at with it. And I know Brad's not that type of guy though. Like he's a guy that he's like best player available. Like I want to get my guy at the top of the board and I'm going to chase him down. So if that's Kool-Aid, that's Kool-Aid. I just don't see, like, do you guys remember Brad's comments a couple weeks ago about corners at the combine? Mm-hmm. Where he was just like, it's hard to come by a guy that I really like at corner, especially in the draft. And yes, there might be a lot of them. Doesn't mean I like any of them. And that's why I think he went to the combine. He saw a lot of these guys. He probably met with most of them. And then guess what? Within the next 2 weeks, he went out and got 2 free agent corners. So like, I think he would rather address the corner position in free agency than in the draft. So I don't see us drafting a corner in the first round.
I mean, based off what Brad said before, right after the season ended, he said it. I think he went on 97.1 and said it. The free agency is for filling needs. The draft is for a BPA. You draft the best players available. So, you know, he's filled some needs in free agency. It's clear whether some people think he did or not. Now, the draft argument for BPA, I don't know how he values some of these corners. And to kind of Lucas and your point, Booner, about a guy that you draft in round 1 that needs to come in and contribute right away. I do agree with that. Although I wouldn't be opposed to taking a corner, that if you're making that argument, I think that's 100% fair argument. And that's why I think we all agree in this, and we'll get to our mock drafts at 9:00, which I think you guys are going to like those. If he does stay put at 29, I don't know who he could take. Now, we would prefer he trades up, though, and takes a defensive end. I think that's where we're all kind of in lockstep there. Or go and take the best player available. Maybe it's a wide receiver. Who knows? But trading up is preferred, I think, from all of us. And maybe a Latu is there. Maybe a Jared Verse falls. I don't know how far he could trade up. He's done it before where he traded up to 12 and drafted Jamison Williams. Was it 12?
Yeah,
I think it was 12. But regardless, I think he trades up, and I do think he takes an edge because the edge, that other side of Aiden is the last kind of hole on this defense. I wouldn't say it's a hole, but it is.
That's a hole. Marcus Davenport is your starting defensive end. If you want to go win a Super Bowl, that's a hole.
Yeah, it is. Okay, that's fair. It is a hole. So that would be the other thing he has to address. And if you're doing that, it's going to be in round 1. So I think ideally, guys, he trades up and gets that guy. Not sure who it is though.
Yeah.
I'm kind of on edge in the first round. Like I just like Darius, even if you don't move, like Darius Robinson, like that might just be. We had this conversation last week. Trade up, and I did see some of your guys' mock drafts, and I'm excited for the people to see them because I think like what one of you guys did, I think is a legit like I could see Brad Holmes making that move, and doing what you guys did. So like, yeah. I just think like if you looked at the whole roster right now, fellas, there's one position that's like you can upgrade that position and that makes that side of the ball elite. And that is another edge rusher on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson. If you put a guy there that can absolutely like can be great, that changes that defense. You have safeties, you have corners now, you have the linebacking room, you have now a DJ Reader in the middle with the Lee McNeil, you have Aiden Hutchinson. It's like who's on that other side? You don't have a definitive starting edge rusher on the other side of Hutch. You do not, and you need it. And I feel like it's like a desperate, like, you need that. And there's nothing left on this roster where I'm like, you need this. Like, there's nothing left besides that one position.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, I'm curious. I think he does trade up. I know we get closer to the draft. It's like trying to crack a safe with Brad, what he does. I think he would – I think trading up is on the table more than trading back. And that's what I think. I think if he doesn't trade up, he just stays put. And if you're trading up, you're going to take an edge because that would mean if you get a Latu, hell, a Dallas Turner, if he falls, doubt he does. He's going top 10 or a Jared Verse. Then you're thinking to yourself, man, we got a defensive line with one expected to be premier, but one already a premier edge rusher on rookie deals, which is like unbelievable in its own right. So who knows? I know people in the chat were talking about Latu, and he medically retired because of a neck injury. Man, he was one of the, if not the most productive edge in college football this past season. And
he's an absolute animal, dude.
Yeah,
he is a dog.
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys a question real quick? What would you guys have rather had Brad Holmes go after like a Chase Young on a 1-year deal and draft like a Jackson Powers Johnson and trade up, or do what he's doing now and then go get an edge in the draft? Like, which way would you have him rather have done that?
I mean, I've said it before. I think guard's one of the more replaceable positions in football. I think it's a lot like running back and linebacker. But when you have a guy like Kevin Zeitler who's like that and you can just plug and play, like you can go and get a guard next year. You know what I mean? Like especially like deep, like you can see around NFL lines across the league. Like there's tons of 4th, 5th, 6th, 2nd round guards that are there. Like, and a lot of the times that's where the money is with the offensive line too. It's not in the first round. Obviously you have the Panay Sewells, but you look at the lines and how they're built around the league. There's a lot of late round guys there.
Yeah. I think the thought of maybe a Jerzon Newton is kind of off the table at this point. I just think, any of the defensive tackles, Tavondre Sweat, I just think they have enough. It's kind of cluttered at defensive tackle. They need they need to get an edge somehow. And I don't know. We've had Russ come on him and Scott do great work for the NFL draft. And we're going to get those guys on more often now that we're kind of free agency's over. I want to get those guys kind of breaking down more prospects for us. Because again, like one thing they always kind of talk about is the edge depth in this draft isn't, it isn't great. Like there's some good edge rushers, but once you get past the second, maybe third round, it's looking a little bleak. And you'll kind of see that with our mock drafts, which, you know what, fellas, we can kind of get to right now. It kind of sets up a conversation. So
here we go, boys.
Mock draft Monday. We all went, did it's a 4-rounder, but now it's a 3-rounder with like 3 picks, unless one of the boys made a move, which is kind of weird. So you're going to see 3 picks, but technically it's the first 4 rounds. So it's the top 100. It's what we're thinking the Lions are going to do, what Brad Holmes is going to do. And for the first one, we'll go we'll go with Boone because me and Lucas have a more similar one, but we'll start with Boone's. So Boone, talk to the people.
Jeez, here we go, fella. This is the
execute?
Booner path. This is the real
Oh my God.
the real Booner path. And listen, you guys
Here we
cannot
go.
judge. You cannot judge. The draft every year, it plays out in ways that you never know. Like guys drop, guys move up. I just happened to have Brian Thomas Jr. fall to me when I clicked on. I clicked start, and then all of a sudden, boom, Brian Thomas Jr. And I was like, oh, like you can't if he is available at 29, fellas.
Yeah.
And Brad Holmes. Do you guys remember who was the wide receiver, Lucas, last year? Me and you, we were sitting at Fifth Avenue when we were doing the draft show, and there was a wide receiver that just kept falling. And we were like,
Jackson Smith and Najimba.
yes, and we were like, needs to be it, needs to be it. We didn't really need a wide receiver like that last year, but this year, if Brian Thomas makes it to 29 or even past 20, and you can make a move to go get him, you go and get Brian Thomas Jr. and you put him up there with Jamison Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Khalif Raymond and DPJ and Sam Laporta and that running back duel you have, and you have the best offense in the NFL for the next 4 years. And I will guarantee you that. So that's where as soon as I saw him fall, I went for him. Marshawn Nealon. I watched some of his film today. I kind of like him. And I know he's at Western. He didn't put like insane numbers up, but like he's an absolute dog. And I mean, staying in Michigan, like that's a Detroit guy, Dan Campbell guy. It's kind of like a Hutch situation. Obviously not the same level, but just more so like staying in Detroit, playing for a team he probably grew up loving and knowing what it means to kind of be a Detroit Lion and do that. So you know you're going to get everything out of him. Max Melton. And to be honest, I made this before all of the signing and everything. I still would do the same thing here, to be honest. I would go after Max Melton.
Zeitler 34. You imagine Cooper Beebe behind Zeitler, just developing.
Yeah. Dude, when Zeitler leaves, you have Cooper Beebe that hops in. This would be, and I said this a couple weeks ago in my lap. I think this would be like if this happened, I would give Brad Holmes an A+++ if this happened.
Yeah, I'd be sipping Kool-Aid, Booner. You could, if Brian Thomas fell to 29 and the Lions got him, you could cancel the draft. I don't need to watch the rest. I just know that, okay, we won. Lion just got another wide receiver one. And I mean, if you get Max Melton in the third, BB in the third, or no, you got both of those guys into traded back in the third. Yeah.
Traded up into the third again.
A+++. Kool-Aid's flowing.
This would be an amazing draft. Oh my gosh. I want some Kool-Aid right now.
You boys are speaking facts. You guys are Brian Thomas Jr. Yeah. If he's at 29, yeah. Him and JMO on the field at the same time, yeah. Mm-hmm. How are you going to stop that?
Amon-Ra under him?
I'm telling you, best offense in the league for 4 years.
Amon-Ra and Sam Laporta would have a landing strip of open field because these guys would take away. They would you have to put a safety on both those. I mean, for real. I mean, what these guys would get. I mean, Amon-Ra would probably catch 15 balls a game. I mean, I think because of the type of player Brian Thomas is, he is so explosive. He's a red zone threat. I love it. And I think, you know what? I know people, this is what I love about mock draft time, Boone, is when you put Brian Thomas there, everyone's like, he'll be gone. We don't even know. I think he'll go top 15, top 20. But if he's there, like, who knows, man? I mean,
I've seen just go. He's going
down. Crazier things happen. We've seen crazier things happen.
Mock right here, he's going 15, and then you see a mock of him going in the 20s. So it's just like things are just moving around. It was literally like last year. Who would have bet Jahmyr Gibbs going at 12? No one. Guess what? 12. No one. A lot of guys drop down, and it's just the way the draft goes. That's why I do like doing the mock drafts, and whatever way it falls to me, I'm just like, all right, let's just play off of this. I don't care if someone wild falls. Let's play off of it if this happens. Because we do 100 mock drafts before the draft. So when I saw it, I was like, I might as well do it. This is I'm going to grade my own here. Again, A+ here. If this happened, dude, I'm drinking so much Kool-Aid when we're at our draft party this year. I'm going to have so much Kool-Aid ready to go if this happens.
I mean, Marshawn Nealon has just gotten better and better every year he's been at Western. So, I mean, he's kind of he's definitely going to be a guy that the Lions are going to know a lot about because, of course, he's a local guy, but also they need edge. And he's a guy that's kind of in that second, third round tier that I think is moving up some draft boards. So I like
Keep
it.
that man home.
Yeah, Max Melton, we all are on I don't have to speak much on it. We love Max Melton. If you don't draft a corner in the first round, unless Kamari Lassiter's there in the second, you go get Max Melton. So I think that we all agree there. And then Cooper Bebe, we talk about a lot. That's depth. That's a guy that's going to be your eventual starter. So you're getting, again, 4 guys that are going to contribute. And if an injury happens, all 4 will contribute this year. So,
real quick,
that's a good first 4 rounds.
As well, Cooper Beebe, when I was drafting him, Mason McCormick was available as well, too. And I think Zach Zinter. Like, I think that, like, in that third round, if Brad gets back in the third round or gets an extra pick here in the top 90, top 100, which I think there's a chance you see him do somehow, some way, he's going to have a chance to get a guard that's going to be elite. Because Mason McCormick, remember that little, the 20-yard shuttle that Scott kind of brought up, and he was in that number to where like 85% of guards that get drafted and run that, they end up starting like 85% of snaps in their career or something, like some insane number. Yep. So he was available as well. I chose Cooper Beebe, but you're going to have some options there in the third.
Shout out Matthew Evans. He just became a Crunch member.
Let's go, Matthew.
Member for 1 month. He says, Nealon is a beast. Well, we agree with you, Matthew Evans. We appreciate you. Steve Lehman also gifted 5 Crunch members to the people.
Hey,
so
real
Steve
quick,
Lehman,
too.
Man of the people.
Real quick. He's back. The dog. I believe he had heart surgery. Phil.
Let's go, Phil. How are you feeling, Phil?
Happy everything went well.
Yes.
Shout out. Just want to
we get an update,
sure everybody. Yeah.
Love you, Phil.
Anyway.
Hope everything's good with you. The fact that you're tuning in despite everything you've had to kind of go through over the last couple of days, man. That's a you know what? That's a Dan Campbell kind of guy right there, Phil.
It's a dog.
He's got grit.
It's a Braden Fisk.
Yep, no question. Well, speaking of some dogs here, Lucas, I'm going to pull up your mock draft. You and Booner. I think all 3 of us. These are all 3. We got some fire ones for the people. So here's Lucas's. Lucas, break it down. What are we doing?
Hey. I've been trading up in damn near every one of my mock drafts, and I just think Brad's going to move up. And I look at the teams that really are possible with moving up to and most realistic, and it's Miami, because you look at after Miami, it's a lot of teams in the NFC, and Miami, they got a lot of free agents, so I'm sure they don't mind moving back and to get more pieces around Tua. But you go up and you get Latu, because at this point, I think if you look at all the prospects on the draft board and look at the lines, what they need a lot to. That's the perfect fit right now, in my opinion, because they just need a guy that can get after the passer on the opposite side of Hutchinson. I think Dallas Turner would be that guy, but there's no way Dallas Turner falls out of the top 10. I don't think Brad's going to move that much assets. You get Latu on the opposite side of Hutch, that's going to be a lethal combination for the next 4 to 5 years. We talk about Max Melton all the time. You get him in the second round. If he's there, I don't care if it's a little early, that's best player available. You get the best player available. You let him develop behind Carlton Davis, Cam Sutton, etc. And then the player that I've been falling in love with over the last week is Brendan Rice. Because what the Lions need receiving-wise is an X-wide receiver that can stretch the field and just go up and get one. And Brendan Rice, in my opinion, outside of maybe Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors, is the best wide receiver in this class at high-pointing the football. If you go back and you watch Caleb Williams' film, a lot of these crazy plays where he's just like, fuck it, I'm making a play, they're jump balls to Brendan Rice. And he knows what he's going to expect when he gets in the NFL. Obviously, Jerry Rice, his father, best wide receiver in NFL history, and he's coached it. If you listen to Brendan Rice interviews, probably the most down-to-earth, humble prospect in this draft. So he's going to fit right in this locker room and realize, yeah, I'm not the number 1 wide receiver. I got to earn my reps. He would be a perfect fit. And for somebody like Antoine Randall L to develop Brendan Rice, the ceiling is sky high, in my opinion, for what he brings to the game.
I love it.
I mean, the fact that you traded up 8 spots, and you got arguably the best edge in the entire draft. That's what some people would say. I know Field Yates have said it. There's people that believe he's the best pass rusher. Dallas Turner, there's a higher ceiling, people say, with him, but a lot too as a pure pass rusher.
Yeah.
His hand fighting. I mean, he'd be regarded as the best.
Dude, I watched him today. Absolute demon, dude.
Yeah, he just overwhelms every offensive lineman he goes up against. So I love it. There's your edge. Max Melton, Brendan Rice. The Brendan Rice thing, I watched a couple USC games, and I caught Brendan Rice. He definitely stands out. Like when you watch him play, like you mentioned him high pointing the football, he was a huge red zone threat. I mean, he had a touchdown in like every game, but like a couple games, I believe. It was like
I think he had like 10 plus touchdowns this year.
Yeah, he's an interesting. I don't know what he ran at the 40, but like he plays big, and he's 6'3". So think about it.
When you watch him run his routes, like he's definitely. he's not a guy that you're relying on to throw to screen like a quick screen and take it to the house. But when you watch how he just sets up his route, I'm assuming it's because he ran with probably the best route runner in NFL history in Jerry Rice. He grew up with him. That's his dad. Like his release, it looks the same every time. So just the development there, he could be one of these receivers that when you look back at the draft, you're like, how did Brendan Rice go in the 3rd round? Because he's like 6'4", 6'5". The man can go up and just get one.
Yeah, I think this is a great draft. I get people's concerns about the injury. Like, I think that's a question for anyone that sits out for as long as he did and then comes back. But if you just watch, like, his film speaks for itself. He's an absolute dog. And if you would go up and get him and put him on the other side of Hutch, and you have DJ Reader and Lee McNeil, like that defensive line is one of the more scary ones in the NFC, especially with if you have some depth with it. And then the Brandon Rice thing too. Like, I don't know if you guys remember at the combine, like Jerry Rice was there. And he wasn't just there. Like, he was, like Lukas said, like, he was coaching him up. Like, I watched an interview and he was talking about how he worked with his son, getting ready for the combine. And, like, everything he does, he helps his. And it's like, yeah, maybe. And if you did watch him too at USC, he's very, very good. Like, it's not just like his name. I see some people like, are we just like, would you just draft him for his name? Like, that's not it. He's a very good wide receiver. On top of that, he has a very high ceiling. And that also is probably, because his dad's Jerry Rice, and he's going to be learning from one of the best, and his dad's going to be along his career for the next 4 years in Detroit. So, like, there is a benefit of that as well. But, like, he is a very good player at that. Like, he wasn't just like someone who went out there and had 2 touchdowns at USC and like 600 yards. Like, no, he went out there and dominated at USC with Caleb Williams. And you put him on an offense with Jared Goff, with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and the weapons you have. I mean, he would be a very, very good piece of this offense. Very good piece. I would not hate that. If that's your 3rd round receiver instead of doing one of the first 2 rounds, I would be happy with that.
I see a comment here. Hala at Dre says, what about Braden Fisk out of FSU, defensive tackle? Do you guys think that defensive tackle's still in play? I just don't think it is. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think defensive tackle's in play early.
Someone
maybe in like the 3rd, 4th round. Like, I still think they probably want a guy to develop. But it's a depth piece because they already have so much depth there. I mean, they still want to see what Broderick and Levi are. As much as I don't believe in them, the Lions still do. So they're going to want to see what they have. You look at a guy like Josh Pascal, who also can play inside. In the first 3 rounds, I think before DJ Reader signed, I think Braden Fisk would have been in a lot of these mock drafts. But guys like that now, do you really want a Braden Fisk, or do you want a Max Melton, or do you want a wide receiver? Like, I just think the position and needs have changed since then.
Yeah, I mean, if a defensive tackle like Fisk or someone falls, and you notice someone falling in the draft, I think Brad, again, that's like a best player available thing, to where you don't want to go by position, try to not go by position and just see what's the best player available. I could see him doing that, but outside of that, you still need someone behind DJ Reader and Lee McNeil. Like, you do still need you do need some depth there, because you really like do you trust the guys behind those 2 guys right now, or?
I mean, I do not.
Yeah, and again, to kind of Dre's point too, like, I get where he's come. Like, Braden Fisk, we all like him. I mean, it's not even the player; it's just the need. Like, I mean, if you draft another defensive tackle, then I mean, what are we doing with Broderick? Like, I'm serious. Like, why would you trade up for him in the 3rd round? Like, he should be the backup guy. And that, I'm not saying that, like, who knows? But, like, to me, that's more of an indictment. Like, you should be that confident in Broderick. You took him, you traded up to get him. So, I mean,
but like, if they do that,
and Pascal can play defensive tackle too. He's more of a hybrid. So, like, they got some pieces there.
I agree with Jeff.
Booner.
Yeah, like, I get Jeff's point. It's like, you drafted him for a reason. Like, if they already feel like he didn't work out and Broderick didn't work out, or they need to wait another year and they need someone else, go. Yeah, but like, dude, like, you don't have the time just to be like, try and sit on your high horse and be like, well, I did it, so I have to sit there and I got to roll with it. Like, no, if you don't think Broderick is going to do that this year, like, and you have a best player available at that position, get him and make Broderick compete. That'll make Broderick better if he has more guys in that room to compete. So, like, that's going to help him. Don't just not draft a guy when you say you go best player available and you have a defensive tackle sitting there, and don't just leave him on the board when he's like at the top of your draft board just because you have Broderick Martin. Like, don't do that. Like, I do not like, if he has Devondre Sweat sitting up there and he's at like the best remaining player. This isn't me saying Devondre. I'm just throwing out an example. This is an example.
Okay.
This is an example, boys. if that happens and he passes on him just because he's like, well, I have to see how Broderick plays out because I've drafted him last year. Like, you're at a point in the organization to where you can't just sit there on your high horse and be like that's like something in a rebuild when you're like, okay, we have time. You don't have time. It's if there's a guy in the 5th round that like do it.
Oh, 5th round, I'm fine with.
I'm just saying like someone drops to it.
The top 3 rounds should not be defensive tackle. If he
takes
one in the 3rd, I'll be like, okay. Like maybe he gets an edge in the 4th. But you got it. You have to address at least edge and corner first. That's a must. You have to.
I think edge, corner, wide receiver.
Because if you're trying to improve your defense, wide receiver too. But I'm just saying, like, I could see him taking a wide receiver in the 3rd, but he's like, all right, we can get a wide receiver in the 4th. We're going to take a defensive tackle. I'm not going to hate it because at the end of the day, your interior presence is going to be nuts. That's going to help Hutch, but you need to get an edge first.
Yeah, and that's the thing with like Brad, and I kind of mentioned it. Like whatever the positions of need are, at the end of the day, like if there is a player that falls, he may just be like, you know what, Fisk is higher rated than any of these players. I'm taking him, which, you know, whether we agree with it or not, but he's told us that's his strategy, like best player available. I think you said it, Boone. I think we all agree: wide receiver, edge, and corner.
That's the 3.
Would be kind of the 3. Unless you want to put guard in there, you can argue, but no, I'd prefer the other 3. But again, who knows if there's a defensive tackle there and a corner there, and he's like, Braden Fisk is better than the corner. Like that's where he's gonna take Braden Fisk. Like we've seen him
put
do
him
it.
on the edge. Put Fisk on the edge.
Right, let him cook. Hey, again, I saw the comment. Someone said, do you guys listen to what Brad says? He goes best player available and fills needs in free agency. I'm with that. Like that, I cannot wait till the NFL draft because I know we're gonna have these conversations. And what's going to happen is Brad's just going to go do his own thing. And we're all going to be like we're going to be doing the draft show and like, he's going to trade up and he's going to get back in the 1st round. He's going to do this, or we're going to be like, oh, whoa, what is he doing? And he's like, imagine if he just goes out there and gets like a linebacker. Like he just gets something wild and just goes off the board.
Adrian
gets
Cooper?
a Cooper DeJean. Like, what if he does that? We have to be, we do have to be prepared for that. I'm just warning you guys now.
Yeah, I mean, I just think people have kind of written off Broderick too early. Like, I'm not even like I'm going to die on the hill of Broderick, but like we haven't even seen anything to even base that take off of. Like, I don't even
I wonder why.
Like, what's the premise? Like, what's the base of that take? Like, maybe because he didn't beat out Benito, fair, but we knew he was a project. I mean, they said it. Like, he's not going to be ready to play year 1.
I think Broderick's going to be fine, fellas. I think it's going to be. He traded up into the 3rd round. I think Broderick is going to be fine. I think like he needed time. He needs time.
He's not going to be Chris Jones, but like
he'll develop into a fine role player, possibly.
He might actually be the perfect.
What were you saying, Boone?
I would just say he might actually like. It might be really good that he's going to be like going into year 2 development, another training camp with the new Terrell Williams. Is it Terrell Williams, the new D-line coach?
Yeah.
Terrell Williams now behind DJ.
That's
behind Ali McNeil. Like he's behind 2 of the best in the league, fellas.
Yeah, I agree with you, but my whole thing is, and I'm sure you guys agree with this too, we will never, ever, ever see the ceiling of Broderick Martin. I think we can all agree with that at this point. I mean, maybe it's a little early, but just the players that are in front of him, the players and the money that they're going to, because they're going to re-sign Aleem. You already know that's probably going to happen.
Yep.
Reader's here. They're probably at some point in the next couple of years going to add another defensive tackle, probably even this year. Broderick's going to keep getting knocked down. He's going to keep fighting. He's got a lot of fight out of Western Kentucky, the Hilltopper, baby. But hey, it is what it is. We've seen Levi. Brad's not going to hit on all of them. No GM does.
Well, here's the thing, though. Okay, because DJ Reader, he's an incredible player. But what was the big thing people bring up with DJ Reader? He takes up space. He demands a double team.
Broderick Martin, baby.
Broderick's like 6'5", 350. I mean, what the hell is he going to demand?
He can't move. He can't move.
No one said.
Well, guess what? Guess what, Lucas? Lucas. Guess
DJ
what?
DJ Reader's agile out there.
Yeah, no doubt. He is. He's levels and levels above Broderick. Levels.
Guess what?
What's up, Boone?
Ali McNeil had a pretty good transformation from last year to this year.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Let that man Broderick Martin go get with someone and have a nice little transformation and stay nice and big. and get a little agile, as you would say.
Aleem,
Let that man do that and prove you wrong.
Broderick Martin will never have the pass rushing bag that Aleem McNeil did or does. That's just fact.
Yeah, I'm not saying. Well,
and like Aleem
I thought
McNeil,
the conversation was about taking up space, not pass rushing.
Well, you brought up Aleem, and now we had a transformation. Aleem slimmed down.
I'm not comparing the players. What I'm saying is, like, you can go get with the trainer in the NFL, and you can get more agile, and you can go out there and get better at that. That's not skill. That is like, go work on that, dude. Like, go get better. That's all he needs to do. He's going to be in the NFL for a full off season now.
I'm not saying he's just going to never step on the field. All I'm saying is just the people that
sounds like it.
Broderick is going to be a problem in the interior of the Lions defense for years. You put him next to Aiden Hutchinson. I know it wasn't, but I'm saying when the hype around when he first get drafted,
Who said that?
I don't see those days happening.
It's
you, Jeff?
This is where what?
Are you the one saying that Broderick's gonna be next to Aiden Hutchinson? Is that you?
Well, people were like, no, around the draft time, like we talk about like how people react to the Gibbs pick and the Campbell pick.
Yeah,
like,
it was
people when they
draft.
saw Brad trade up for a guy that was massive out of Western Kentucky that knew it. They were like, who the hell is this guy? Brad's got a gem. He's got a gem. No one knows about him yet. No one knew about him.
To be fair, you for Brad Holmes, every draft pick he makes, even if it's rounds 1 through 7, it could be the 7th round. You're like, this guy could be something because Brad Holmes just finds guys, man. It's just like maybe it's a bad thing, but it's a great thing. But maybe there is some, where you get false hope with certain guys. But like Broderick's different because you traded up in the 3rd round. Like he should be good. That's where you got Kirby Joseph. You know what I mean? So
develop. So,
hey, we'll get to my mock here, and we'll see what I did.
Yeah, that was a pretty big gap in between.
I didn't realize we were still doing mock drafts. In my head, I'm like, all right, what's our next segment? I was about to.
And I want to clarify real quick. I hope I'm wrong about Broderick. Like I do. I hope
you
wrong.
will. You will. No, I'm just
kidding. Jeez,
Chris Jones, huh? Chris Jones, huh? Come on.
Hey, no.
All right.
I'll stand on that. We won't ever do that.
I'm just kidding. All right, here's my mock. Lucas, I don't know how the hell you traded up with the Dolphins for a 5th. I had to give up a 3rd for it to work. I literally tried it 4 times. Oh, hey, I got robbed, but hey, don't mind the capital. That's up to Brad Holmes. He handles the capital. I took care of the players. All right. I got
PFF sometimes screws me too, man.
Oh, it's bad. But I traded up to 20. It was Jackson Powers Johnson or Laiatu Latu. I had to make a decision. All right. I sat there. I was sitting there. I'm like, man, I want to take JPJ so bad because he's going to be the eventual starter after Zeitler leaves or Ragnow retires. That would have been a great pick. But I said, you know what? We need a guy. I went kind of like what Booner and you were talking about earlier. I need a guy who come in and play right away, who come in and contribute right away. And I took Laiatu Latu. There is injury risk, but hey, maybe that makes Brad a little horny. Who knows? Maybe that entices him. I'm just saying. So he takes Laiatu Latu. Now at 61, this is something I haven't seen before. Jalen Polk. You mentioned Brendan Rice. His ability to high point the ball. In that like top of the draft, high pointing the football, go up and get contested catches. Jalen Polk is up there too. He's not the most, kind of like Brendan Rice. They're kind of similar in a way where they're not like explosive athletes, but they just make plays. And that's kind of what you're missing with Josh Reynolds. I like Jalen Polk a lot. He had a very, very productive year this year at Washington. And in the 2nd round, there's some good wideouts available. And I was still able to get Max Melton at 73. So, we have some similar mocks, and we didn't even tell each other who we were taking. So that means great minds think alike. We got Max Melton on all of them, I think.
Yeah, you know what? Can we have real quick? Let's just have this Max Melton conversation because I saw someone in the chat say you guys love Max Melton. If Max Melton gets to our pick in the 70s and Brad doesn't draft him, our show, and we've been pushing Max Melton on all of our like listeners and everyone who follows us. It's gonna be like, what are we doing, Brad? When it's probably he's making a good decision, but we're all just gonna be like, Max Melton's there. Why didn't you I feel like that's gonna be the situation. I could see it.
Now, 2 things.
I love the draft, though.
Thank you. And I'll let you guys kind of give your thoughts on it a little bit here. I'm going to answer some questions. One, are we on Apple Podcasts from Matt? Well, Matt, not yet. Apple Podcasts, I'm learning this is a bitch to get on. All right. I'm trying to work that. We're on everything else You name a platform, we're on it. Apple Podcasts is like, no, not yet.
Steve Jobs,
wait.
man.
Gotta earn that.
So we're trying. I'm in the process of getting us an Apple Podcast, but we're on Spotify. I know. I'm gonna be honest. I use Apple Music. I don't even use Spotify, but we're on Spotify.
I don't use Spotify either, so I'm like, I'm over there. I feel for the Apple people, man. Like,
we are on it. Now the next thing is people talking about the ads. We can't control the ads. So like it's like you got to call YouTube and say, hey, you guys are bitches. I mean that's what it comes down to, because yeah, we don't have it. We don't have ads.
I see some people in the chat that are like, I've gotten 11 ads, and then other people are like, dude, I haven't gotten one ad. I don't know. I have the stream pulled up on my thing. I haven't gotten one ad either. I don't know what it is. Maybe you need to be a member and not get an ad. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm sorry. I can't. That's all YouTube. So want to make that clear. But fellas, what do you guys think? I traded up. The whole thought of trading up for Latu. I know people are scared with the injury risk. I think it's fair. I don't think it's I wouldn't sit there and be like, no, you're wrong. Like, I think the neck injury, I mean, he medically retired. So I think it's fair. If I could pick though, Lucas and Boone, I would go get, if you can, Jared Verse. I love Jared Verse.
Dude, yes.
If you can't get Dallas Turner, I love Jared Verse. But I think but just because, and I'll tell you why, it's not because I think he's a better player than Latu. I think Latu's the best pass rusher. But just with the risk, like, that is concerning, man. Like, one neck injury, he might hang up his cleats. Like, that's where I'm like, I'm a little worried, Lucas. I'm not gonna lie to you.
No, I mean, it's true. And Verse is the better overall defensive end too. But I just think what the Lions did with their offseason, as far as what they can already do, stopping the run and adding DJ Reader and Marcus Davenport in the rotation, solid against the run. He's not anything great, but they can afford to go and, like, I mean, because Latu's not going to be a complete liability in the run game, but they can afford to kind of like, hey, we kind of have a need of getting after the passer. But if they get Jared Verse, I'll probably be at the same level of excitement as if they got Latu, just because they have a defensive end that can grow next to Hutch. That's a legitimate option.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at with it. Just in round one, if you end up with an elite pass rusher who steps in and is a starter on that other side, I think that's what everyone's looking for. And Latu, like, even Chef put it in there. It's like, just like Van Der Esch today, who just retired today. Like, that the neck, it's like, especially in football, it's a weird injury. Latu might be the best pass rusher, but like, and I guess it's like, depending on where these medicals come in and what happened at the combine, where does everything, how do they feel about him? I think that's the biggest thing with Latu. It's like, do you want to deal with that, and do you want to take that risk? That's like a type of guy to where he's very elite. And those are type of guys who you might see drop in the draft just because, like, the medicals, and he sat out. Now, probably not, because he's so elite, like, he's very, very good at his position, but that's like the situation you're going with there. So yeah, maybe Jared Verse. I personally probably would rather go him. But I'm with that. And I do like Jalen Polk too, by the way. Like, we haven't talked about him at all. What I love about a guy like Jalen Polk too is he's like, and it's the same thing with Brian Thomas, is he's kind of that number 2 talked about from his wide receiver core from his college. And one thing that shows to me, it's a little bit like he can kind of take on that role. And that's something on the Lions. Like, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's going to get 10 targets plus a game, and he's going to go out there and get a lot of catches. What type of role are you able to take in? And I think that's like with Jalen Polk, like, he put up 1,200 yards at Washington or something, and like 8 or 9 touchdowns. Yeah, and he did that with Rome Odunze on his team, who put up insane numbers as well. So it shows, like, hey, he could take that secondary and be that, not like the Robin to Batman kind of deal, but they're both like kind of 1A, 1B, and go out there and dominate. And you get him in what'd you get him, the second round?
Second round?
Yeah, 61.
I think that's elite. Like, he's shown he could be a number 2 in college at an elite level, and he could do that in the NFL behind Amon-Ra. So I love that. I'm all in on that one.
Jalen Polk, and same thing with Brendan Rice. I know Jalen Polk 6'2", but people and some fans, especially like last season, were pounding the table for T. Higgins. Bring T. Higgins to Detroit. He wants out of Cincinnati. Jalen Polk, Brendan Rice, the receivers of that type, they play a lot like T. Higgins. And I'm not saying they're going to be as good as T. Higgins, but T. Higgins was a second-round wide receiver out of Clemson because he didn't have a full route tree. He was just a deep threat. When you look at Jalen Polk, when you look at Brendan Rice, that's what the Lions need. You get them in the second and third round. Think about the value that you're getting, not with the player as far as you're not getting T. Higgins, but what they can do is very similar. So that brings another element. And Jalen Polk, to Booner's point, he was a wide receiver 2 at Washington. If he was playing at Utah, he would be the wide receiver 1. He'd be the wide receiver 1 on pretty much 90% of other college football teams. He just happened to be next to Rome Odunze.
Yeah. That's what it comes down to. I know people mentioned Darius Robinson. I haven't really heard. It's funny, the Darius Robinson, like the stock went up, and then now it's just like for some reason no one's really talking about him anymore. I wouldn't. I know it's not the splash, one of the best edges, but if they stay put at 29 and all the top edges are gone, and they end up with a Darius Robinson, like I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't hate it.
I mentioned it last week. He might not be that quick pass rusher that you're sitting there and you want because he moved from the defensive tackle out in college, but like that's a guy that takes bodies up and can win one-on-ones and take away guys from Aiden Hutchinson. Like again, just go watch some of these edge rushers last year on the Lions. Literally just run up field and stand there. It was like it's one of the most frustrating things. A guy like Darius Robinson, like he's gonna go. He has a motor. Like you want that on the other side of Hutch. Another thing too, real quick, with the Jalen Polk thing, and to Lucas's point, go look at like a different team like Florida State with Keon Coleman. Like I'm a big Keon guy, and I think he's going to have a good NFL career. I'm going to look up real quick too. I want to make sure he had 650 yards and 11 touchdowns. It was crazy, but 650 yards, and he was the most receiving yards on his team. Imagine Jalen Polk in a different offense. He had almost 1,200 yards on that Washington offense, and he was the number 2 behind a guy that's going to go top 20. Like
imagine if he was like at UNC with Drake May.
Yes. So it's a completely different to where it's like me. I almost would say, hey, let's go Jalen Polk over at Keon Coleman because of something like that. That guy's putting numbers up. You know he can play at that level, and he knows how to kind of be that second tier towards an Amon-Ra.
Yeah, it's like based on and I'll say this, and then we'll move on here. I just think it's like ceiling versus like what he did in college. Like if you like Keon Coleman, you think he can be. I mean, the production you look at, but it's more of just the physical tools he has and his upside. And then Polk, like to your point, Boone, he was productive as a number 2 wide receiver, which, it's a whole nother
I love
thing.
Keon too, by the way. I had him going before the combine. I had him going to the first round. I dropped him a little bit, but I'm still in on Keon.
Now, we have about 8 minutes before we kind of go around the NFL. Some stuff happened over the weekend we'll get to, like Justin Fields being traded to the Steelers. We didn't talk about that. Some other things being talked about just around the NFL and for the NFL draft. But right now, I want to spend the last couple of minutes here. This was a tweet posted on our Twitter, which you could follow at @OfficialCTPod. And I think it's a fair question, but I want to hear kind of what side of the spectrum completely you're on, if you're all for Kevin Zeitler or kind of more in the middle here. But the question was, is offensive guard Kevin Zeitler an upgrade over former Detroit Lions offensive guard Jonah Jackson? And I know when people see this, they're gonna be like, "Well, duh, yeah." Like obviously, he was injured. He didn't have a great year last year. But when you talk about Jonah's sample size and who he was as a player, made the Pro Bowl, like how do you guys? What would be your guys' answer for this?
It's tough. Lucas,
I would say,
want to go?
As simple as it is, like to your point, people say yes because of injury, and that's the case because it's not like there's a huge talent drop off between those two. I will say where Jonah will get Kevin every time, especially with this Lions offense. Jonah in space, especially like on screens and like pitches, he was great in space as far as getting the linebackers and safeties and taking them out. I don't think Kevin's going to be that agile, but when you talk about interior running, Kevin's going to be an upgrade there. Pass blocking, he's going to be an upgrade there, and he's doing it for cheaper, and you're going to get him for more games, so you don't have Yodi or Colby Sorsdahl out there. Like he's an upgrade, I think, all around besides just in space and mobility.
Yeah, and Jeff, you could disagree. You can agree. I don't know where you're at with this too. You could say with Jonah, like when he's healthy and then when he's at his best, you could probably say like the ceiling and everything is higher. Like Lucas, like there's different parts of his game that stand out. I keep going back to the PFF grades, fellas. Like, and I know we don't like to go PFF, but
only when it fits our narrative.
Kevin Zeitler, 82.3 PFF grade for pass blocking. Jonah Jackson 60.7. And when it comes to protecting Jared Goff, at least in my opinion, you know what you're going to get in the run game, especially like when you have Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker, Graham Glasgow, like Frank Ragnow. You know what you're going to get out of the run game with the 2 backs you have. But you want to protect Jared Goff at all costs. And if you have a guy that had a PFF grade of 60 and you're upgrading that to an 82, and it's a clear, like last season, an upgrade from the number 34th guard to the number 15th guard. I do think it is a bit of an upgrade. I think like the health, that is like the number one thing. It's one guy had 1,200 plus snaps, and in his career, he has not missed a ton of games, and he has played in a lot of games in his career. And the other guy, he played in like 800 snaps or something like that. Like he played in 300 more snaps That's significant in my opinion. So I think it is an upgrade, at least for this Lions offensive line. And when you look at like market value and like price wise, I don't know what the price comes out, but you only have to pay him for 1 year instead of Jonah. What did he get? 3, 4?
Yeah, he got 3. If I had to guess, Zeitler's probably going to be somewhere between like 9 and 13. If I had to guess, I could be wrong, but
yeah,
I went 12 in my head. In my head, it was like, all right, that's probably going to be about 12. And I can look at his, I can look up actually.
Well, fellas,
I could just see Brad getting a steal too. My bad, Jeff. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I boiled this down. I kind of looked at what Jonah does better, what Kevin does better, and this is what I came up with for Jonah. I think Jonah's a better run blocker. I think he's younger, more agile. Whatever that is, and he's better in space. Yeah, better in space. Well, yeah, which is important. Kevin, I would give the nod. He's better pass pro. He has played in multiple systems, which I think matters. He's played with different offensive linemen, which that matters. I just think it does, because if you can excel in different situations as an offensive lineman, you're a damn good player. And then I have Price. It's that simple. Like, I just think for what they're paying him versus what Jonah got, my gosh. And then he's been more healthy over the last year than Jonah, which matters. I mean, if you're not the best ability is availability, which we all understand. So I think Kevin's better in ways that I think the Lions needed him for. Like, I think for what the Lions are looking for, Kevin fits it better, because you could say, well, Jonah's a better run blocker and they run the football, but Panay's a monster in the run game. Frank is a monster in they have some guys that are great in the run. They just need, like we just brought up, Taylor Decker didn't have a great year last year. They need to get better against the pass rush. And Kevin's a better in pass pro. So I think it's a perfect fit.
Hey, what running backs have the Ravens had? All of their running backs have gotten hurt the last couple of years. So like, maybe his PFF grade was down because every single one of their running backs was hurt and they're with back. Like, that could have been an effect. And when you have 2 running backs like you do, and you have the offensive line that you have the number 1 in the NFL, that's going to help his grades go up that much more. By the way, too, the projected, this was A to Z Sports, and they did an article and it said this is what they feel like he's going to get. And I don't know if this was just in Baltimore. It said 1 year, $6 million. I don't know if that seems very low.
It's probably why he didn't re-sign there, especially when they brought Derrick Henry. That probably affected the cap a little bit.
Dude, if it's a year, $10 million, I'm with it.
Yeah,
that seems like a steal outside of Jonah.
And the other thing that it might sound corny to say, but I saw Jordan Palmer. He was talking about quarterbacks when he was talking about Caleb compared to like the other NFL legends of all time. And he said, the thing that's different, we're talking about leadership, is like leadership is not buttoning your shirt, shaking a hand, dressing up. That's etiquette. Leadership is being able to go into different situations, regardless of where it is, and excel at the same level. And you look at Kevin Zeitler, that's exactly what he is. So the Lions offensive line, losing Jonah Jackson, who was a leader, he's part of the culture, but now you're getting a legitimate guy, a veteran, a leader added to this offensive line. So that's another reason why I think it's 100% an upgrade.
I mean, guys, let's just we could say all the opinions. Nah, screw all that shit. You know what I like? Guys doing pass pro sets while his wife's giving labor.
I knew you were pulling this up.
No way.
Like,
yeah,
no, dude. His wife's giving labor and he's putting
fundamental.
I mean, like, yeah, he's cool, he's better. Yeah, no. This is what matters right here.
That's a Dan Campbell guy. If I've ever seen one, that's anytime, anywhere. Well, let's put him on. Let's go.
He like lives, breathes football. Like,
you're right guard, right?
Yeah, that's why he's moving. Yeah, that's why.
I was just making sure. So Graham's gonna be on the left end.
Yeah, I mean, you see it from the video here. He's the right guard. The way he's moving.
You guys need
violent hand movement.
Yeah, that's like, come on, what are we doing? That guy.
I had to get a couple reps in, boys.
He was built to be a Lion from the very beginning. There's no doubt.
He was blocking Marcus Davenport out there.
You guys see that? Should I teach him? Should I teach him a few things, boys?
Gotta stab me. Yeah, well, hey, he'll be. Hey, it'll make Davenport better in practice, though, huh? Come on,
maybe.
Yeah.
Make Broderick better. It'll make Broderick better, baby.
Yeah,
no cop out of Western Kentucky.
Come on.
Hey,
come to the Booner pass blocking school.
Yeah, Boone. I think if Booner, I
Maybe
mean,
like
I think we're a long snapper though.
You should create like
both.
You know how
both,
they have
brother.
the Elite 11 for high school quarterbacks, Booner? You should
You're-
have like your Elite 11 long snappers and guards.
Oh, I should do a long snapping
There you
camp.
go. Be the Elite
I should
11,
do a long snapping camp.
long snapping camp, dude. Yeah, I mean, hey, we could do crunch time. Sponsor it. You know what I mean? Let's get all the youth in there. Get some long
Get the
snappers.
throwing out there.
Get some Pro Bowlers.
We need to talk to the Michigan Panthers. We need like a try. We need to reach out to their front office, like a tryout video for me for long snapping.
Yeah, you got to go out there.
I'm ready to roll.
I think it'd be great content. Speaking of reaching out to
long snapper, no one can be over top of the long snapper, correct? Like I just get a free shot down. I just snap the ball.
You get a one-on-one opportunity with Rico Dowdle.
Me and Khalif.
Yeah.
Come on, Leaf. What are we doing?
Leaf would just
Tutu
route.
Atwell.
Leaf would
that's
route
a tough one.
Cordell Patterson.
I got Cordell, man. He's old.
Cordell would run your ass over. Cordell's like
Keyshawn Nixon.
Slim.
Keyshawn Nixon.
Yeah.
That.
Keyshawn Nixon, the GOAT.
Well, you mentioned, Boone, we got to reach out to the Panthers GM to get some content. Well, speaking of GMs reaching out to each other, Justin Fields is traded. Ryan Poles reached out to Pittsburgh and said, here, you want to take him? Here you go. And it says that here, Ian Rappaport put out. Important note on the Justin Fields trade. At least 4 additional teams inquired about trading for Fields, but Fields' representation asked for him not to be traded there. He wanted the Steelers, and the Bears did right by him. And they got a 6th-round pick that with playing time can go to a 3rd or 4th.
4th.
Oh, wow.
For next year's draft, not this upcoming draft, next year's draft.
I think Ryan Poles fumbled this because the supply for quarterbacks and the demand ain't there, boys. It ain't there. It just ain't. Russ, Kirk Cousins, Sam Darnold, all these places. And I know they said other teams reached out. Like, I get you want to do right by Justin Fields, but man, like you should have gotten more. I mean, you just should have. But at the end of the day, the Bears are going to do what they do. Ryan Poles is going to do what he does. And the Steelers, you look at their quarterback situation, they're paying Russ. Think what you want about him. He's making about $1.5 million. And they're paying Justin Fields like he's still on a rookie deal. So they have barely any money into a quarterback room, which they have 2 starters technically. I mean, Justin Fields could start over some players.
Rich Eisen brought it up. He's like, the Steelers quarterback room alone is less than Taylor Heineke's contract, who's backing up the Falcons right now. So, I mean, I don't think the Steelers are going to be pushing for a Super Bowl or anything, but Ryan Poles absolutely fumbled the bag. Couple weeks ago, we were talking about Justin Fields going for a 2nd rounder to Atlanta, and then you could fix it. The fact that you got a 6th rounder for next year is absolutely brutal. But Booner, I know Ryan Poles is your guy. I know that's your boy.
Right here, I just saw this comment pop up. Shout out, Adam. Love you, Adam. Bears will be firing their GM and coach. Very soon. It's going to have, this is a make or break year for, first of all, Ryan Poles. His downfall started when he didn't fire Matt Eberflus. That was when that didn't happen. And I saw everything going down and Matt Eberflus, he won a couple games. When that happened, I knew instantly, man's not for the job. Not for the job. Now, it might be cool. I've seen some Chicago people out there trying to cope with the situation. Oh, look at the guys he's bringing in. He's brought talent in. He's brought players in. Yeah, okay, cool. Let's see where this gets you. Because what happens if things don't work out and you just let go of Justin Fields? What if Caleb Williams isn't Caleb Williams? Dead serious, guys. I broke that down last week, the Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels thing. What if he's not Caleb Williams and he's what everyone's talking about him in the negative sense? What if he is that? Then you're back to where you were a year ago with Justin Fields and you're in the same spot, except, guess what? Oh, cool. You've got Keenan Allen as well with the massive cap hit. Seriously, fellas, it's one of those things where it's you're buying a team, you're banking on guys to be good, you're getting that's just where I'm at with it. Again, I'll sit here and say Ryan Poles is in my opinion, I don't like him. I think he's one of the worst GMs based off of the Matt Eberflus situation and him just trying to build a team off money. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not, but I'm just gonna and Jeff, I'm not going at Caleb Williams in your sense. I'm looking at it more so as a NFL thing, when you're building a team, banking so much on a guy, and that's just where I'm at. Justin Fields, Maybe he wasn't the franchise guy, but guess what? You probably could, like, if you kept him, you probably had to go to the playoffs, or Ryan Poles was fired. So that was probably where he just extended his stay in Chicago. He probably has a couple year lease, so he doesn't have to give that up for a couple more years because he made the decision to go with Caleb Williams. But he's not Brad Holmes. And I think the Bears, when you notice you don't have a Brad Holmes, that's when it's like, okay, we need someone to compete with him.
And I think you said nothing but the truth there, Boone. I think the sad part of that, not the sad, but the reality is if he doesn't take Caleb, he's fired. So like you just have to. You have to take Caleb.
Yeah, because if you don't take Caleb and Fields doesn't go to the playoffs, you're screwed. It's over. Your
I mean, even
gone.
No. Even if you go to the playoffs, let's say they make the playoffs winning like 9-8, but Caleb's generational, he's still fired. Like I just don't. You cannot botch that because they passed on Stroud and Bryce Young. They passed on Stroud and Bryce Young, and if they pass on Caleb. Like, that's the tough part, man, about being a GM. Like, although I agree with you, Boone, like, it's a risk because if Caleb stinks, then Ryan Poles is, I mean, he's fired either way. The guy can't even draft. I mean, I'm sorry. He just can't. I mean, when we went through it, the first 2 rounds they're decent. Like, Darnell Wright hasn't been good, but he's trying to buy Chicago's way to success, and it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And even if it does work for a year, it's not sustainable. Like,
and you gotta move off Eberflus eventually. The only way that he can stay permanently is if this is the exact plan they have to do. You make the playoffs, like Jeff said, or just get damn near close to it, show that you're competitive. You fire Eberflus and you bring in Mike Vrabel. That's how you keep the job. They do that, then you're good to go. Or somebody like Mike Vrabel, somebody that's sitting a Pete Carroll, somebody like that. Yeah. Otherwise than that, if they just bring in some up-and-coming coordinator, that's not going to click. Like, if you get a first-year head coach, it's not going to click, and by that time, to your point, Jeff, you're out.
Guys, what people don't realize, too, is, like, Keenan Allen, he's on the last year of his deal. You just traded for him, right?
It's a fourth-rounder, though.
But my point is, but it was a steal. I'll say this, for a year, it was a steal, but it would have been a better steal if you were in a year for contention. And that's where I'm at with it, to where it's like, okay, what is he going to do for a year here? Like, you're going to compete for the NFC North, maybe be in that second spot. Maybe if you have like a crazy year and the Lions or the Packers have a slip up, maybe you have a chance to go and win one and then lose in the playoffs. You're not going to compete for a Super Bowl with the roster, especially with the rookie quarterback. So it's like, okay, you just got Keenan Allen, who's a 23, 24, $25 million cap hit this year. You have DJ Moore, who's almost a $20 million cap hit. You got like $40 million on your receivers. Like, you're not going to bring both of them back in a couple. Like, you can't extend both. So it's just
they're drafting
they'll draft one, but it's like again, it's one of those things where you're buying a team and it looks really good on paper. What does it really do for your franchise?
Well, that's to Greeny's point. He should be focusing on the Bears because that could be a recipe. Trying to buy a Super Bowl, it just does not. I mean, even the Rams, who went all in on staff, they still had players they drafted. Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp. Look at their secondary players. Like, they had players they drafted. So, like, you can't even say, well, the Rams didn't. No, like, I'm talking they purchased a lot of players here and or from free agency or trades. Like, it's, I don't know. We'll see. It could easily backfire. And I just think we all agree Eberflus stinks. Now, you know,
he's got a new look with the beard, though, you know.
The Toledo legend now.
That was a compliment. That was he was sitting there with Matt LaFleur. He was sitting there with LaFleur, Saginaw legend, SVSU, shout out.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Swift, I think half the roster could be injured by week 5. I mean, you got Swift.
Even Keenan, he always misses games as much as I love him. He's gonna. I'm telling you, when he's been playing in San Diego and LA his whole career, when he hits that Chicago winner, it's gonna be brutal. Him and DeAndre Swift are both gonna be made of glass.
Do you know what would be a smart move for them in the draft? Go get an offensive lineman with that 9th pick. Get Joe Alt. Go get one of these top offensive linemen who are supposed to be like all Pro Bowl offensive linemen in their career and keep them there for 5 years. Like,
that's what they need. That's what they might do, to be honest.
Yeah. Outside, like, if you're getting Caleb Williams, your franchise guy is supposed to be the next Patrick Mahomes, go get Joe Alt to protect him. Like, seriously. Screw getting a wide receiver. Maybe that's why they brought Keenan in.
Here's the worst part about that trade, guys. The Fields for a 6th-rounder that could go to a 4th-rounder if he plays. They came out and said they don't plan on playing him. So, like, what? unless Russ, of course, just nosedives or gets injured, which could happen. But to even have that contingency when they made it clear Russ is going to start, like it's probably going to be a 6. And if he doesn't play or plays a little bit, they got to pick up that 5th-year option, which is like $20 million, I think, on Justin Fields.
I mean,
So,
I think it's a good option. I mean, what's Justin Fields' weakness right now? His arm. And now I'm not saying Russell Wilson has a cannon or anything like that, but you look at Russell Wilson over the course of his career, when you built around a good run game and a good defense, he can make all the throws that you need to. So I think what they're probably planning is 1 year with Russ, hit that 5th-year option with Fields, let Fields develop, and then you're letting Fields be the quarterback. Because you look around the quarterbacks in that division, future. Joe Burrow, I mean,
Deshaun
you can say what you want. Deshaun, I say, well, you say what you want about Deshaun, but he can still have a year where he can just, if he flips that switch back into old Deshaun, that's an elite quarterback. And obviously Lamar, the only quarterback on the roster that's even close to that ceiling is Justin Fields. Yeah. So maybe this is like a developmental year.
When I heard the trade go through, when I saw it was the Steelers, the very first thing I thought of was Russ is going to probably, like, maybe they'll compete. Didn't know if they actually would, because Russ coming in for a year. I was like, in my head, Russ comes in and Justin Fields is the next man up in Pittsburgh, and he's going to be their franchise guy. It sounds like a perfect story for a guy like Justin Fields, who, like, he wasn't great in Chicago, but he wasn't a scrub. Like, he did put some, like, if you do look at his numbers, he did have some numbers that he put up a little bit. So it's like, if he gets with a good coach, Mike Tomlin, and who's their OC now? What's his name from the Falcons?
Arthur Smith.
Who
kind of revived Ryan Tannehill's career.
And did he not want Justin Fields in Atlanta last year? That was like rumors as well of Arthur Smith wanting Justin Fields in Atlanta. So, like, that's a guy who, Justin Fields, he does have the talent. He has, like, the ceiling to where you can get him there. It's, what do you do with that? And can you put a team around him to do that? The Steelers organization's someone who can do that. I think that's like a perfect contingency plan for them. Like, hey, we've got Justin Fields for next season. That's going to be our guy moving forward. We'll go with Russ for a year. If we have to pay him and he goes off, we'll go Justin Fields. We'll have a great defense with him, and we'll put the weapons around him that he needs and an offensive line.
Did you guys see also in other news, Chase Young signed with the New Orleans Saints for a 1 year deal?
What was it, like 12, 13 mil?
12,
let me get the number on it, because now I want to make sure I'm correct here.
I believe I saw 12.
Yeah, he signed a 1 year deal worth $13 million, fully guaranteed.
Gee, that's good for him.
Yeah, fully guaranteed $13 million deal is really good.
Prove it deal too.
I think prove it deal. That's a couple more million than what CJ got. I would put CJ higher at his position than Chase Young. Mm-hmm. I just didn't think the Chase Young thing was a realistic thing. That's why we never really talked about it on this show. They showed you their hand. They didn't trade for him at the deadline, and I don't think that was because I don't think it was because only they didn't want to give up assets. I just don't think Chase Young fits with the culture. I just don't think they were interested in him as a player, to be honest. Not just trading for anybody. I just don't think they were fans of him, to be honest. And I like Chase Young coming out of Ohio State. I mean, Lucas. I mean, dude was a beast. Yeah, dog. Yeah. But he doesn't fit. Doesn't fit what they want.
Does them not going after Chase Young and just going Davenport, does that make you guys feel like, it makes me feel like Brad Holmes loves someone in this draft? Like, it just makes me feel
I thought you were about to hype up Davenport for a second, bro.
No. I don't think Davenport's like a clear, like, starter on the other side. I think he's a good depth piece. I just think, like, the fact that they haven't gotten someone over there, I think it's like Brad, like, showing his hand a little. Here, I love someone in this draft, and he's going to go out there and get him. Like, there's no reason that he wouldn't go out there and get someone yet if he doesn't love someone in the draft. No reason.
Yeah, and I mean, we even talked about, like, especially after the draft with roster makes up, there could be a guy that either gets released or Brad knows is probably not going to be getting the time he wants. Let's go trade a next year 3rd round pick, or even look, there's still Jadeveon Clowney, Dante Fowler, so he might like those guys more, and they're probably doing the same thing. They've been around the league forever. Every team could use a Jadeveon Clowney or Dante Fowler. They're probably doing the same thing that Josh Reynolds is. So if Brad's like, I'd rather take Dante Fowler for $6-7 million instead of Chase Young for $13 million, I'm not going to hate it whatsoever, because when you do watch him play, you can tell he's not the player that he was when he first got in Washington. He's still a good player. Like, I still think he'll make an impact on the Saints defense. But to your point, Jeff, is it worth risking the culture for? I don't agree.
Yeah, for $13 million, guys, I mean, that's a little, to me. I mean, but that's about half what Davenport got. And
do you guys? Do you guys have
Anyway,
a feeling or like just a thought in your head that Brad could be setting up, like with the money still available? I think it's like 30 something million. He's made some, like they've restructured some contracts today, like 2 or 3 or 4 different contracts, trying to free up a little cap space, move things around. Do you think that he could be setting up for like a big time trade for a big time player?
I don't think a big time, but I agree with you. When he doesn't just make those moves for no reason. You know what I mean? He's creating cap for something. And I'm just trying to think around the NFL, like the defensive, because I agree with you, but does that mean it's going to be a defensive end? Does that mean he's going to go make a trade for a Quandre Diggs? I'm not saying Quandre's obviously released, but a player like that.
Yeah.
So
I just feel like an edge that's like 15 and then wants out of his city, and Brad's like, we'll take him for cheap. And he has the money now.
What you got, Hefe?
You know who's a free agent still?
Who?
Andre?
Stephon Gilmore.
I thought he was going to say Diggs for a second.
Diggs,
that's taking Kool-Aid out of 29, though. That's taking your boy out. That's taking your boy out.
Honestly, they don't really need him, to be honest. But I'm just saying he's still a free. You'd be. I mean, you already got 2 starting corners, but I guess you throw him in there.
Every team needs a Stephon Gilmore. Every team needs a Jadeveon Clowney. Stephon Gilmore. If you say, hey, Stephon, I'm going to pay you $9 million. I know you're not what you were in New England. I know you're not what you were in Buffalo, but just coach these guys up a little bit.
Yeah, I love that.
And you get to go with your brother and help your brother develop. I think now I'm not saying it's a lock to happen, but I think Detroit, even as it still stands, like, would you rather have Stephon Gilmore or Amik Robertson? And that's not a knock.
No, it's an obvious.
Having both. Imagine if your cornerback room was Carlton Davis, Stephon Gilmore, Amik Robertson, Cam Sutton, and Emmanuel Mosley.
I actually love this idea.
Higher ceilings as far as cornerback rooms. You look around the NFL at like Sauce Gardner or DJ Reed. It's not one of those. But you just want to talk about a solid cornerback room that you do not have to worry about being a liability. There's levels there, and there's age there, so they know how to put themselves in situations as far as coverage. So I'd be all in for Stephon Gilmore.
There's the depth, there's a rotation. Like if a guy goes down, we saw like I say like Cam was hurt playing through those last 5-6 weeks. You
let him take a week or 2 off now,
and he's healthy again. And you just put, hey, Stephon Gilmore can step in, Amik Robinson can step in. Like these guys step in, and that helps out your room that much more. You had some like not lower level, but you didn't have the best depth this year of guys stepping. You had a lot of guys who didn't have a ton of experience. So if you have a guy like Stephon Gilmore who can step in if someone goes down for a week or 2, that's or just not even go down. Like he's just you're just rotating guys. You're getting different snaps, throwing different looks at different offenses. Like that is a very, very, that's scary. Let's get Lukas out there, man.
So real quick, we're gonna get to Mailbag. We'll get to Mailbag, so get your questions ready. I decided to give 5 Crunch members away just now because if you stayed here till the end, you get rewarded. So thank you for that. You get 5 free Crunch memberships. It's a month. And I just thought, hey, give back to the people that were here, throughout the show. We appreciate everyone, but man, if you're sticking around, you deserve to get rewarded. So we appreciate you for that. Let's get to
hit that subscribe button too if you haven't yet, if you're new.
Yes,
subscribe, like, love that.
Trying to get to 5,000. We're only about 300 away.
300.
Yeah, we're
climbing.
What do we want? 10K by July?
10K by the draft.
Okay.
Yeah. We're shooting for the moon. We'll land on the stars, if anything. You know what I mean? We'll figure out something.
We're 280 away. 280 away. Tell a friend. Tell a friend about the show. Go share it out. Family
Jeff asked,
friend.
Mailbag, what free safety do you think is most likely? I'm going to be honest. I'll say right now, I think Diggs is in play. Maybe I'm wrong.
Let me look.
I don't think I am, though. I think that'd be a great signing. Culture fit, depth. He played a lot of games. Veteran.
He hears the chirp too because Stephon Harrison. He was even tweeting out, and there's people. I mean, even like Lions Twitter's going crazy for Quandre to come here. So
he's responding to people. Like this might be a place he wants to come back to. Like he is out there on Twitter saying, "Yep," like he wants it. So I'm in on Quandre. If they get him at a good deal, I'm all in on that. I'm interested to see what his number would be.
Safeties are there.
There are some safeties. I know Justin Simmons hasn't signed, right?
He is not. No.
Oh yeah, Justin Simmons is not signed, but he's more of a. I mean, he can do it all. I wouldn't hate Justin Simmons.
It's probably expensive though, right?
Yeah.
Micah Hyde's still out there. J-Ron Curse, who was with the Cowboys, he'd be a nice option, especially as a depth piece. Kareem Jackson's a targeting call waiting to happen. Yeah. Terrell
I like
Edmonds, I
Curse.
wouldn't hate either.
Curse was actually, I liked him last year on Dallas.
Hey, one that I really like that'd be cheap. Ashton Davis, the safety from the Jets out of Cal a couple years ago. He's a psycho.
He's a psycho. Okay.
Yeah,
we
white
like
boy
him.
safety out playing out of Cal. Just cracks people.
Eduardo O'Neill, Mailbag. If you're going BPA and your highest rated edge, cornerback, wide receiver, and guard are all available, who do you prioritize in what order and what would you choose? They all have the same rating. So we don't have to do this individually. We do it as a group. So I think edge would be our number one.
Yeah. I don't want to waste time on that one.
Yeah. 2 would probably be corner for me. If you want to say wide receiver, maybe that we can differ. What do you think?
I would say wide receiver right now, just because I think that takes you to the next level. I don't think a first round corner is taking your defense to the next level. I think a first round receiver could.
I would go edge, wide receiver, guard, corner guard.
I'd go corner guard. Yeah.
Corner guard.
So we have guard last, edge first. Ours is a little different in the middle. Okay, that's fair. And then we would all
that third round really messes with me too, because it's like, do I go Max Melton or like a Cooper Beat? Like, who are we going here? That messes me up a little bit.
Since Zeitler was cut, does this count against comp pick consideration? That I don't know.
It's an interesting question.
It's a great question, to be honest. You know what, Michael? I'm going to look into that because he was cut, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna look this up. I'm gonna see if I can find it.
That's a great question. I do not know. Let's see. Peter, Mailbag, Lions go offensive tackle guard at 29. This would be a forward-looking decision. That's more of a statement, but I agree with it. If they drafted offensive lineman in round 1, yes, it'd be a future move. Anakin says, Mailbag, think guys we draft, will just be able to ride right tail in Park since it's in Detroit. Yeah.
First round guys will be in town. I don't think the other guys are though.
Yep. Lucas is Wi-Fi. Mailbag, can you guys break down what is the currently salary cap after all these signings? I think the updated.
I think it's 31.
Yeah, they still got some money.
And he's moving money.
It looks like here on my end it says 31.2 million, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right. I know it was around
updated after Zeitler too, or no?
That's what it says on Spotrac, but the Zeitler deal is not in there yet, and I don't know if all of these moving around these contracts are. I could be wrong. It might be like 35. I think it's 31 though.
All right, let's see here. I wanted to give a shout out to somebody. I just missed the comment. Dang. We'll answer this one. Lorena, Mailbag, did you scare Gentry away? No, actually Gentry's sick. He's I think might have food poisoning. So
oh no. Wonder what he ate.
Yeah, I would argue it's because he went to a Pistons game. But we'll see.
Should we have this Cade Cunningham conversation?
No,
about that
rather
shot?
Right. No, I'd rather not.
Might have been the worst shot in NBA history.
I know. He's got to. He's got to. I think Cade gets into this hero ball thing where he gets like zoned in, and he's just like there's so much pressure on his shoulder. Like he has to slow down. You got time. He shot it way too early, and it came back. It bit him in the ass. It was a bad decision.
The pressure conversation. You're supposed to like. I'm a big Cade fan. You're a franchise player. If you can't handle pressure, I get pressure on missing the shot. I'm not complaining about the shot missed. You should be able to handle the pressure to know game and situation at that level. Hold the ball until 5 seconds and then attack and make a play.
I'm just saying. I think hero ball is just like on the front of his mind on
learning
those situations. Which is just not. It was a terrible decision. I'm not gonna argue that.
Still love.
All right. Let's see. I want to make sure I get the correct order here. Okay.
Adam keeps throwing a question in there. We got to get to his.
I will. I'm going to try and fly through these. Sarah Mailbag, favorite flavor of Arizona: peach, strawberry, lemonade, green tea.
I like the original.
I would say lemonade.
I'd go peach,
and I would say strawberry is good too.
Green tea ones as well. I would probably go lemonade and then green tea.
The Rona 99 Mailbag: Diggs or Gilmore or wide receiver? Probably wide receiver. I don't know. I think they draft. If you're talking about free agency, maybe Diggs.
Diggs is free agency.
They play with more safeties. They could probably.
Yeah, probably, but I still like Gilmore a lot. I think if you add Gilmore, this cornerback room is just locked down.
Yeah. Zach's mailbag thoughts on Quan Alexander, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Michael Gallup.
Yeah, we talked about Gallup a little bit,
Yeah.
but with bringing back Donovan Peoples-Jones, I don't think you need to re-sign Gallup at this point. Because Gallup's an injury concern. He's an X, and he's always been like that wide receiver 2 or 3, so he knows his role, but I don't think there's anything that he can do that Donovan Peoples-Jones can't.
Forgot about Michael Gallup, that he got released.
U of M dad mailbag, draft center / guard hybrid.
Yes,
preferably. I know
for sure.
McCormick out of San Jose. What was it? San Diego State?
South Dakota.
South Dakota.
So close, Jeff. You almost got it.
Jackrabbits.
Oh,
he's a
Dallas Goddard. You.
Is it really? I didn't know that.
Is he really from South Dakota State? South Dakota State, they were always good at football. Carson Wentz. No, maybe that's North Dakota.
Zach Zenner, Detroit Lions legend.
I'll take. Oh, Zach, really? He's from
Zach
South Dakota State.
Yep.
Real quick, let's do Adams, and then I do want to bring up we do have the bracket thing for the people to join as well.
Oh, that's good news. We'll get to that mailbag. Thoughts on the scenario that Brad Holmes goes after an edge midseason via trade instead of a high draft capital? I think it's very much in play. I do.
I don't think he walks into the season with Marcus Davenport starting at defensive end. And to Booner's point earlier, the fact that he hasn't went out and signed anybody yet, I think there's a prospect either in the first or second round that he loves putting on the opposite side of Hutch that he's willing to go up and get.
I think he's in love with a guy or two, and he's like, I'm going to go after him.
But I will say this: if the Lions are in a position where they were last year, where there was like a Chase Young on the market, I think Brad gets the deal done this year.
I got to see it first. It's not in his DNA yet. I got to see it.
Okay, that's fair.
I got to see it.
That actually is true.
All
I wouldn't mind it if you're sitting there at the trade deadline and you're like, we need to make this push. I wouldn't hate it because this year is a Super Bowl or kind of bust. But
look at that's weird. Adam mentioning Jeremiah Trotter. I don't know why he would do that. That's weird. Had him in a draft. All right, Matthew Evans, mailbag. Go get Keon Coleman or not. We'll answer this, and then Boone, you could deliver the message to the people. I think if they get him, none of us would be upset. I mean, I don't think go and get him, like trade for him, but if he's sitting there in the second round, I mean, I wouldn't love it in the first round, but if you take Keon Coleman at 29, I'm not complaining. I think it's nice, but I wouldn't trade up to get him if that's what it's saying. Yep.
Yeah,
right.
I'm
Boone.
I'm the same thing. I'm not going at 29. Like, I wouldn't be like, 29, get him. But like, if your second round pick, if he's there and you have to go wide receiver, Xavier Legette's off the board, a couple guys are off the board, go get Keon Coleman. You do draft him, especially if you didn't go wide receiver in the first round, you get Keon Coleman. Like, his ceiling is very high. I'm a Keon guy. I just, again, like, I had him in the first round when we were doing mock drafts before the combine, and I had him outside of the first round after, which I shouldn't take the combine. It should be what his film is. That's just where I was at with it. But I'm still a Keon guy. Shout out Keon Coleman.
Boone, you got a message to the people. What's going on?
Oh, yeah. I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah, so we're going to do the we don't have like our own website or anything for the college basketball tournament, but the people were asking here. So Jeff's pulling it up right now. Do you have that, Jeff? So you guys can join here. The group name, if you guys are on ESPN for the college basketball tournament, you'll have until Thursday to hop in, and we'll announce it and talk about it every single day. You guys can join here the group. It's just literally Crunch Time Sports on ESPN. You saw Jeff and I clicked it at the same time there. So the link's in the chat twice, so you guys can join the group. Yeah, we want the people to join. Maybe we'll end up doing something too, and we talked about it today. We might do a giveaway for maybe the person who gets in first place. Maybe we'll do top 3 places get a prize. So make sure you guys go in there. It's only 1 entry per person. So if you submit it, don't like, make sure it's your best submission and go join that. Hopefully we can get like a couple hundred people in here and compete for a prize here.
Yeah, I think this is a great way to just have another, it's a way to kind of interact with fans, compete with fans. It's a lot of fun. And I think it gives people, we're going to do more stuff like this, like, towards the season, maybe even like a Crunch Time Fantasy League with certain level of member, whatever it is. I mean, we're going to find ways to get members involved and people involved. This is obviously not member exclusive. This is just people in general. So I love it. It's great.
Everyone join. Hopefully today we have 500 people in here watching. Hopefully today by the time I go to bed tonight, we have 500 entries in there. That'd be awesome. Again, we're gonna have prizes probably in my head, probably for the top 3 there. I see the gold, bronze, and silver there. So hopefully we can get some prizes for the top 3 people, and it's free stuff. Why not?
You can't hate.
And we'll all be playing, so you compete against us.
Yeah, you can't hate on this. I mean, this is gonna be a lot of fun. I actually don't do March, Madness brackets. I've done it a couple times, just because I just like watching. But you do get that. It is a lot more fun. Booner, you're betting on it, so I mean, you're locked in. I mean, you are.
Oh
locked
yeah,
in.
dude. I mean, this last weekend, my background is college basketball, so this is like a Super Bowl for me. These are my times to shine here.
Yeah, and I see some people
We
already
already
kind
have
of
entries.
Shout out.
And make sure change your name too to whatever you are in the chat, so we know exactly who's kind of competing. That's kind of cool to do that. Put your name in there. I'll have Booner in there, and Lukas will have probably blood clots.
Blood clots.
You.
All right. Well,
it's not a funny joking moment, Booner.
Hey, we'll get out of here. We'll get out of here. Appreciate you guys. Don't forget, we'll be putting this in the chat every single day to get people in there up until the March Madness. So please get in the tournament, get in the bracket challenge. It's a lot of fun. Booner, are you in here as well?
I have one in there. I haven't done my bracket yet. I'm trying to wait a little bit, but
right.
I will have one in there. And you guys better have one as well, you fellas.
And maybe we'll have we'll have like a little prize for whoever wins it. We'll come out with something. But until tomorrow, we'll catch you guys. Have a blessed night.
Love you guys.
Kevin Zeitler is a Detroit Lion. It's a great day. All right, we'll catch you. Deuces.